And cut away. We had to take a quick break, but we are back here. So, uh, what I was saying before we ended off was, I think Scourge, you had quite a hand in writing this episode, and to kind of give y'all some context. Typically, what we do is, like I mentioned before, we write out the synopsis of what's going to happen in each episode before we start filming the show altogether. And then when we get to the actual episode itself, then I write the script, which is, I guess you could say, is like the foundation of what's going to happen in the episode, each one. And essentially, it's like a first draft. And then after I write it, then I'll send it to Scourge, and then he looks over it, make sure everything looks good, and he does like various revisions to it. He'll add like more character depth, or he's like, hey, I think we should do this instead, or this should happen in this scene, etc. I think Scourge, you had quite a big hand in some revisions in this episode, particularly when we get to the Xander and the hangar stuff. You wanted to give him more of like an idea of like what his plan was and stuff.
Yeah. I think I just remember adding in some like additional scenes between him and Jake. I know there was like a whole Jake mind sequence that I wanted added in, and there was a lot of stuff to do with Alex that I think I wrote into this episode as well, which was the whole Alex Gordon scenes and a little bit of them bonding and stuff like that. Because I knew we were moving towards having Alex be like a mainstay. So I just wanted him to kind of connect more a little bit with the team, right? That was my hand.
Yeah, you had the idea of him like being in that underwater little thing. Because like when we left up in episode 5, Carter threw him off the building,
Yes, yeah.
and then I guess that knocked him out. When Gordon left, I guess Jake told Gordon to capture him, or keep him in confinement till further notice, and then Gordon had this little thing on hand. So
Yeah.
Very
fun, very good stuff. And it's nice just in general to have Alex be used more. I think I might have already said this, but just like a lot of cut ideas from Alpha Protocol ended up in this episode, because we end up getting into like Marcus and stuff like that. So it's just really good to see. Yeah.
I remember when I initially wrote the draft for it, I think you're really happy to see, with giving Marcus more to do, because I believe when we started Alpha Protocol, you only had like a couple of lines and we didn't know much about him. And I think you were happy to see that, yeah, we're fleshing him out way more as a character, and really especially with Alex. I think early on he's a character I always wanted to include, just because, I was fascinated with him, his amnesia and all that stuff. And when we get to episode 8, we really dive into that a lot more. But going back to this first scene here, I wanted to give like a glimpse, just a little bit, of Xander's background. Why he's doing what he's doing, what his motivations are, why he's kind of bad, why he hates humans and stuff. And I've been inspired by a few different stories where like characters get like experimented on in their heydays. You could kind of say that Carter and Xander had similar backstories, because Carter was also experimented on when he was a kid, and then the same thing happens of Xander. But it's kind of interesting looking at those two parallels and how they choose to cope with what happened to them. Xander says, "Fuck you, fuck everybody. I'm gonna show why I'm so much better than all of you." And then Carter's like, "I just want to live a normal fucking life. Can you leave me alone?"
Pretty much.
Xander, I find that Xander very much follows the Nietzschean school of philosophy.
In what sense?
There's no point to anything. There's no point to humanity existing, so he's going to reshape it.
That's fair. That is very much Xander's mindset. Yeah, Carter tried in a sense to do something similar, but just not in the same way. Like Xander is like, humanity is flawed. It needs to be changed. Carter is like, humanity is just not ready yet. It's weak. We need to make it stronger. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember with this scene, so we kind of get some glimpses with his heritage to Manny, with like, particularly with like the black hair. I made his skin just a little bit darker, just to try to like hint that, hey, he might be related to a certain someone. Because some people were asking me that, like, wait, why is his hair black? or when it's supposed to be white. And then later in the finale, when he's a little kid, it's white hair. Well, typically how I look at it is his hair color is indicative of him like being able to control his power or not. And so I think with his hair going black, that was more like he was held back quite a bit, probably because he was constantly sedated and things. He was always in a very controlled environment, and then whenever he decides to cut loose or when he's unstable, that's when it turns white. That's kind of like the unofficial canon reason, I guess, why it's like that. But the main reason why I decided to make his hair color black in this is because I wanted to give hints that, hey, he might be related to somebody else. But in my internal thinking, it's because he's related to Manny. Manny has black hair, and therefore he's going to have black hair. So obviously, but that was my takeaway from that. And then I think my biggest problem though with this scene is I don't know why. I guess I didn't know I could find one, but for some reason I decided to use one of the bunkers as like the doctor's office, because later on we see this area in part of the New Horizon base, but for some reason I guess I didn't know there's actually a hospital interior that you could use, and so I just found this one. I was like, yeah, that works. I think that's my biggest problem with it. I mean, you get the general gist of it, but I do wish, looking back, that I was like, why didn't I just film that inside the hospital? It makes more sense that way. But there
was something I think I found, because I think I'd pretty much stepped away from doing recording of scenes at this point, as we mentioned before.
Yeah, it was pretty much all me from here.
Yeah, it's totally Josh from here. And looking back, I realized another thing with this scene that always bothered me was that there exists in the game a spawnable, I don't know if it was spawnable at the time through like menu or something, but it is now. You can essentially spawn like chunks of meat and like gore like laying across the floor as like a texture. And if we'd have known at the time when you had that guy explode, you could have had that texture on the floor like as a model in the game. That's in there, but we didn't know at the time. So
well, this is also early on, like, Josh getting used to all the mods and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not until, like, I think I really teach myself episode after episode, and then by the time we get to the finale, I mean, I think even Scourge was like, whoa, I didn't know that was possible. That's crazy.
No, honestly, like, I'd say between the two of us, like, there was so much discovering, because I don't know if we outlined this previously with, like, regards to the mod menus, but there's so many stuff, and like there's so many models, objects, animations, and stuff that are unlisted. They have some. I think you did say they have like code names, so you could scroll through it for hours and find like hundreds of different things, and we don't know what any of it is unless you sieve through it one by one.
Yeah.
So it's impossible.
That's kind of what I mentioned previously. Was like sometimes you don't even know what the animation does unless you select it. And the other caveat with that, too, is sometimes by just selecting a certain animation, and sometimes they were animations that were scrapped from, that Rockstar scrapped from the game, and if you select one, the game crashes. And you're like, fuck! So it's really like, drawing a random card, you have no idea what's on the other side of it. Just because the way they're named, you don't know what they do. That was always... I was always more comfortable seeing, okay, this animation says walking slowly. Cool, let me pick that. Other times it was like a code. 00 AC underscore 28C underscore 0000E. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what that does. So, but then the other aspect of that is, just, I think that was also a big reason why filming certain scenes took so long, is... sometimes in animation when we name the correct thing, like you saw this guy, with his hands behind his head, that the actual animation name is like, I think it was like police calm arrest or something, but I typed in, hands behind head, and I didn't find it. So if you try to be too specific, you're not going to find it. Sometimes you would, sometimes you wouldn't. Like, a large chunk of the time filming scenes in this was finding the correct animation that I wanted. So... But what's also nice with menu is you can actually favorite animations. So if there's one I really like and I want to go back to, I could just do that. But then by the time I started saving favorites, I had like dozens and dozens of them. So scrolling through each one was a pain. The other thing too is whenever I would switch back to a character, like if I wanted to have them move or something, every time you switch back to them, their animation resets. So if you really like the animation that a certain character is doing, be very careful not to click back on them, because if you do, they're going to reset and then you have to find the animation all over again. So it's little things like that that were always getting in the way of the filming. I think one thing we didn't touch on actually that I wanted to was Scourge actually animated both intros for the first and second parts of the show. So I think a running theme I think with the show was I just like you see in the logo too, like this ink stuff. I just remembered I was seeing some like Kingdom Hearts videos, and like when you fight Organization 13 or whatever, there's like this darkness thing, that looks kind of icky and creepy. I just like that aspect of it, and that was kind of a running theme we had for the first few episodes. But yeah, so this whole intro, you might already be able to tell, but like the backdrop, of the game and stuff, that's just from the trailer. But yeah, I think Scourge, you designed this intro here.
Yeah, I just worked on the graphics and stuff, and I think the only reason it looks the way it does is because of the logo. And with the whole, I think I literally just made it black and white because, Carter's skull mask.
Yeah.
And that was probably the main reason. Obviously, it transitioned more into Xander in the second half, but that's why the second opening is so radically different, right? And I think the second opening was footage I recorded. It might have been one of the last things I recorded before I stopped working like on the recording side. Was the second opening. I really liked the second opening. It was a lot of fun to do, having all the little references to Series 3 and such, and you see a little smidgen of Kurt and a little bit of Zeke and stuff. It was very fun, very good to do. Yeah.
And you remade because I think you designed the themes for both, and you remade the theme as well.
Yeah, we needed like a part 2 version of the theme song, right? And I think we prefer this version for sure. It's much faster paced.
Yeah, I think this just goes to show like the progress in which the show is going, because it shows like things are getting more hectic, more suspenseful, more mature, yada yada. As if they weren't before, but this is more like, oh yeah, we're upping the production value here. That like we're not playing games now.
And you wouldn't know it, but there is once again a Bruno was here Easter egg somewhere in this opening.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. And yeah, instead of having the episode number in the intro, it's played like during the episode itself. So like you see in like a lot of film and shows and stuff. But yeah, so I think filming this part of the episode was actually relatively easy for me on my side on PC, because a lot of this is like in the same location, and the only thing I had to really do was typically what I do is while I'm filming, I'll have the game on one screen and then the script on the other screen, so I know exactly what's happening and when and stuff. And so this was, I think, a good way to like ease my way to learning how the mods and stuff worked a lot more. Because episode 5 was super challenging, right? Because episode 5, when I initially started that on the PC, a lot of it was that fight at the between the main characters. So I think filming it here was a much more relaxed way for me to ease into it more and go, okay, let me see if I can figure out how these animations work more and other mods that I can play with. Because you might not even notice in this scene, but I found that you can actually turn off basically all electricity in the game. So like all lights and stuff, you can turn that off. And I really like the idea because it goes to show like that, Xander's plans come into fruition, the city is getting taken over and stuff. And so I like that idea of, and like theme as well, it's getting darker. Like there's not going to be lights and stuff shining everywhere. I think when I initially filmed it, the hangar was way too bright, and I'm like, I don't know if this feels right to me. But then I found a mod where you can turn on the light stuff, and it looks pretty cool. I remember this shot here actually took me a while, because what I had to do was I had to mask like the blood between his body and the ground very carefully, because I had a effect for the blood, but obviously you want it to appear as if like his head is on top of it. Of course, he's not green screen in; he's actually there, so you have to like mask the effect. But that was a challenging shot to make. That took me a while. But we have here Ed's official debut as Xander.
Yes, this is my grand debut, and oh my god, I hate my performance so freaking much. I am so flat. Oh gee, I think I broke him.
I think honestly, you may disagree, but I feel like it was a good like transition from the previous gentleman who did Xander, and it kind of I almost heard it evolve in a way. Like this was the middle ground between the two voices. I quite like it still. I have a soft spot for it.
Yeah, because at this point I'm still mimicking Kyoto Somo's portrayal of Xander, and he plays it very flat, very calm. And I said this before, but there's only so much an actor can do mimicking another actor's performance. And after episode 7, I was like, okay, screw this. I'm done being so flat. I'm going to, instead of Xander sounding like this, very, not a lot of emotion, I'm going to do something a bit more dynamic. Show you guys that, yes, he does have emotion, and he's possibly becoming a little insane as he's getting closer to completing the device because, well, why not?
But I think there are glimpses of that in this scene too, right? Like, during the bit where he controls Maya and then like makes her like stuck in place. He's like laughing and things. I think when he gets kind of a little maniacal, that little like that breaks out like a little more. Especially your laugh towards later on in the episode after he controls the bird and then Maya shoots down the bird and it cuts to him in the desert with the zombie corpses around him, and then when he starts laughing, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. We went from a calm Xander to a more statistical one.
And yet, in the following episode, he still sounds so flat. But again, I only had like a handful of lines in that episode as Xander.
Yeah.
But and I noted this during my retrospective. But the recording time between episode 6 and episode 7 were only a few months apart, so my delivery was very consistent between those two episodes. I still had that, okay, this is what Xander sounds like. This is how he talks. And I was on my old computer at the time. It was this incredibly old piece of junk that I had cobbled together from scavenged parts, same as my old microphone. And you can hear the audio quality in my lines is just not there. Yeah, and one thing that I do want to go back to, at the beginning of the episode when we are experiencing that flashback, well, two things. One, take a note of the voice that I use for Xander, for young Xander. It's very, more up here. Basically how I sounded when I was like in my as a 13, 14-year-old, same age as Xander, roughly, in this scene. Keep a note of that. Keep a note of the voice that I use because it's going to come up at the end. Second, I am asthmatic. I am also very allergic to dandelion pollen. So I used a little method acting for when Xander's getting gassed. I went out, took a couple of dandelions, brought them to my nose, inhaled, and then started recording my lines. So all of the gasping coughing, hacking, him struggling to breathe. Yeah, that's me struggling to breathe.
That's
And
amazing.
oh my throat was sore for days afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the last thing I recorded for the episode because I knew that once I do this, I'm going to need to rest my throat. Yeah, there's no way that I'll be able to keep recording after that. I'm going to need to let my voice rest.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
yeah.
Crazy.
That's some
Enforced
commitment,
method
man.
acting. Yes, it's something I learned in theater, and yeah, you're
Amazing.
welcome.
You
You're
know-
welcome. I suffer for the art.
Thank you so much. You know, speaking of method acting, actually, I was thinking about this as you were talking about that. This episode, when I was voicing James, was actually one of the hardest recordings that I've had to do for James. So, the reason why this was so difficult for me was because James essentially gets tortured in this episode, and it requires a lot of screaming and agony out of him, and that was really
Oh,
tough for
yes.
me to do. And that's always really hard to do if you're not in like a professional recording studio, because if you scream too loudly and too close to the mic, you know, you can get all staticky and sound like crap. So I remember at the time when I was recording some of my lines, and we got to the part where James basically, you know, Xander like punches like he starts to press his hand inside James's stomach just a little bit. And you know, he screams like "ah!" That was extremely challenging. So when I got to that part, and I was dreading it because it had to be done, but I was like, I got to do it. This is the only time right now I have to do it. So, you know, and then I start recording all of like these screams and stuff, and then at the time I was living at a apartment, and as I was screaming, I heard a loud knock on the other side of my wall that was connected to the other apartment. I think somebody was trying to sleep, and I was annoying the crap out of them. I'm still amazed to this day that like no one called the police.
Like they hear like murder screaming in the other apartment. Like.
Yeah.
See, that's why whenever I do screams and shouting and whatnot, I make sure that one, I'm alone in the house. So, and two, it's during the middle of the day, so everybody in the surrounding houses are probably at work. So,
Yeah.
and you know, I always do those last because, oh God.
Yeah.
Mhm. They take
Josh,
the most out
honestly,
of you.
man, that your voice, I think we've said this in previous discussions and stuff, but I feel like your voice has taken the most hits over the years because you've done some of the most serious, like screaming and shouting, and you have some of the most gravelly characters like Kurt and Zeke and things. I'm surprised you even still have a voice, to be honest. Man.
Dude, even looking at like that fight scene in episode 4 where James is fighting the Omega and he's screaming and stuff, like
Yeah.
I'm amazed. I think my biggest, you know, I look at you know, the actors for DBZ who really inspired me to like don't be afraid to go all out sometimes, you know, and I think too is I really wanted to challenge myself, you know, and if you're not challenging yourself, I feel like I'm not growing as an actor, and so I think pushing myself to that limit and beyond was really important to me, because you know, this is something I wanted to look back on and be proud of. And I am. You know, like sometimes I listen to like these blood-curdling, agonizing screams that I was doing as James, as Xander is basically torturing him. You know, I wanted the audience to feel like, oh gosh, you know, which I hope worked.
Oh yeah.
I find the screams of my torture victims to be absolute music.
Yeah, and playing around with some visual effects here, looking back at it, I do think there were. You always look back on it, you're like, man, I could have done this better. Because initially I thought, you know, hey, let's just make Carter's whole body glow, but later on I figured out how to give him, or actually Scourge taught me how to give him that outline around his body instead of making his body glow. I hadn't quite figured that out yet, but yeah, basically using the green screen mod to key out the green and then put him in along with the backdrop shots. So that was fun to play around with. So this scene, I think, really was me getting my feet wet with visual effects, because I think for the most part, this is all me. And then here, what I tried to do was, he's moving so fast, it's hard to see what's happening. And then this, I tried to do like a motion blur effect, but I wish I had like an effect where you see like a white trail behind him, to show like how fast he's moving. That's kind of what Carter's powers showed a little bit. But I do like this a lot. Although,
yeah, I like that.
Looking at that, those kind of look like his fingers kind of look like penises.
She's hitting him with his cock multiple times.
Stop humping me!
And me, all I can think of whenever I see that scene is "Omae wa mo shinderu."
Shinderu.
Yeah, I remember, Scourge, when you wrote this part in the script where it showed like Xander is moving so fast, it looks like there's a bunch of fingers that are like just tapping on the Carter, and I was like, how am I going to film that? So basically what I had to do was, I basically took, the same shot just of his hand and the arm with the green screen, and then I made each one appear over and over and over again, but I had like 20 or 30 tracks of that finger alone on the same plane over and over again, and then it went from color to like this negative coloring effect to kind of indicate like, hey, this is like X-ray vision of sorts. And so doink.
Yeah.
That actually took me a while, just showing all those fingers. That one shot probably took me like an hour. And it's so fast. It's so fast. But like, people don't understand when like you're these little shots that are so fast, but there's so much that happens. They take a while to put together. They do. But oh goodness, it's nothing compared to what I had to do in the finale. Nothing. I thought I had it difficult here. Oh, Josh, you're in for rude awakening, motherfucker. All right, so
while we have the chance, I really did want to throw in here because do you remember Xander mentions his Sigma waves?
Yeah.
I really, really, really don't like that name anymore, and I don't know why I wrote that. I remember specifically putting that in the script, calling them Sigma waves, but now when I look back on it, I'm like, he's using his Sigma Chad waves. His Sigma jaw appears, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Personally, I would have chosen a more obscure letter of the Greek alphabet, like Omicron.
Right, exactly.
I mean, if we're being realistic, though, I don't think Xander would give his powers names.
No, they really shouldn't have had
I think the line should have just, when Xander's trying to control James, he's like, huh, interesting. So far, you're the only person that's been immune to my power. Done.
Yeah.
I don't think it would make sense for, because I think our DBZ fan brain kind of came out a little too much where characters shout the name of their attack before they do it. But since we're trying to go for like a more grounded, realistic approach, I think in general it's kind of stupid to give their powers names. Like I think we handled it well with Carter's like moving really fast ability. He didn't give it a name. He just said, "Hey, I figured out a new technique." That's it. He just calls it a new technique.
Yeah, the last time we gave anything a name was Kurt's enraged form, and we thought that was really lame as well.
Yeah. It's Kurt's like I mean, I guess we wanted to give the audience like a sense of, hey, when this happens, he calls it this, just so you know that he's getting more powerful. But looking back, it should have been a show don't tell. Right? Kurt, for the most part, besides his eyes and stuff, and of course the big scar, he looks like a regular dude. But then when he gets into that form, then he glows red, you see the red lightning come out of him, shit like that. So he's getting more powerful without us having to tell you that he's getting more powerful. So I do think, looking back, don't give this goes for everybody. If you're thinking of creating your own stories and stuff, depends on what you're going for sure. But when if a character has superpowers, and if you're going for like a serious story, don't have them name the power that they're using, please. Yeah. It's stupid. But we were immature at the time,
Yeah.
so I'll leave it at that.
Have other characters mention, like, "Oh my god, that was super speed."
Yeah.
Don't have
There you go.
don't have the person using the power say, "Look at my super speed."
You know what really annoys me though about this bit with Alex in this underground area? So what I actually did to film this was there's that downtown office building that you can spawn in using mods, and what I did was I took like these black walls, I sort of encaved him in that little space to make it look like he was like in a claustrophobic area. The interior looks fine, it's minimalistic, but I think my problem though with this is, why did I pick a fucking on-set television camera? And that's because at the time, I couldn't find the right object to spawn in for the camera that I wanted, which is like that security camera that you hang from the ceiling. I couldn't find it. It wasn't until much later on when I did find one, and I was so pissed because I had already filmed this episode. And so at the time, this is all I had. That's all I could find.
When this episode dropped, and because I'd wrote in the scene that there was a camera, and when I saw this scene and I saw that camera, I was like, "It's Saturday Night Live!"
Yeah, I will admit, when I first saw the TV camera, and I was like, "Oh, that's a bit overkill, isn't it?"
Yeah.
I mean, Gordon wants to see Alex in 4K.
Exactly.
I guess that's
this
the reason.
2049. This is 2049. This is like 32K.
There you go.
Yeah.
In its full form. But I do like this scene here, because it just seems so helpless. James is getting tortured. Maya is like stunned. She can't move. And Jake's just standing there and he can't do anything. He's watching his own son get tortured, and I think that's like so dark. But this is really like Xander's big introduction. Oh yeah, and he also wiped out Carter effortlessly. So
yeah, Jake's legit like, what the hell even is this ability? Because he has no idea how it's working. He has no insight whatsoever. So it really is a case of we've encountered something here that we didn't even think was possible. Yeah.
So the inspiration for this whole scene here, when he gets a phone call to calling Catherine at that quarry to get her to take apart for the device, I knew I needed a way to get Xander to back off. I needed a way for Jake to distract him. And the biggest way to do that was to seem like he was able to thwart Xander's plans. And what I like about it is it gives Catherine a pretty integral role. You know what I mean? Because up to this point, she's been a pretty, kind of the background side character. But I think this episode, I was trying to make it so that every single character has such a crucial role to play. Just think about this. What if Catherine didn't find that quarry? They'd be fucked. They'd be fucked.
They would. Yeah, Catherine, seriously, MVP Catherine in this episode as well. Like, we really started showing her doing more stuff, and eventually by the finale, she's like guns out, kicking ass,
I wanted to ask you about this too, where Jake holds his heart and to slow it down. Were you, and I think Scargy wrote that, were you trying to imply to calm his mind so that Xander couldn't read his thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. I just figured that Jake probably has all different types of training of breathing techniques and stuff to do with his pulse and such. It just seems like something he'd be able to do to calm himself. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. But the whole inspiration for this whole scene here, where he contacts Catherine, and then he is screaming at Catherine after Xander notices Jake is on the phone, and Xander's like, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" And Jake's panicking, "Go get it, go!" And I love it because it's so suspenseful. Even though I know exactly what's going on, it's still pretty suspenseful to me. And the whole inspiration for this scene was actually a episode from Breaking Bad. So there's this episode in Breaking Bad that I love where Gustavo Fring is trying to take out Walter White, so he leads him to the meth lab. But obviously, Walt's smart. He knows what's about to go down, so he starts begging them not to kill them. Like, nope, can't do it. Sorry. And then he's like, "Hey, I'll give you Jesse Pinkman. You've always wanted him, right?" So he calls him on the phone, and then Jesse answers, and he's asking if Walt ended up killing that other innocent scientist, so that if he dies, then they be safe. And he's like, "No, I can't do it because they have me hostage and they're going to kill me." And then they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" They take the phone from him and he's screaming over the phone, "Do it, Jesse! Do it! Do it!" And he runs off to go kill the guy. I remember that whole scene. My hands like sweating. I'm like, "Holy crap, this is suspenseful." And I wanted something really similar to that to happen. So that was the whole kind of inspiration for this. But as Zender was implying throughout this episode, where he's gathering the segments for the device, and how he found out from Vance where they're all located, but there's a lot of them and they're very well hidden. I figure he'd have like a squadron of zombies digging it up and stuff. So that's where I came up with the idea of like them being at this quarry thing. And so after they dig up the device, Catherine steals a van where it's inside of. And the whole thing is just like, it's like nonstop suspense, So
I don't think we've ever had a character in the series get so fucked up like James did.
Yeah. I mean, look at the fight scene in episode 3 when the Frantic hits him, in episode 4 when he fights the Omega, in episode 5 when he has to fight Alex, and then in this where he gets tortured. Like, the dude just cannot get a break. It's really no wonder why he goes crazy. It's really no wonder.
Exactly. Literally, a friend of mine that was watching these literally said around this time, they were like, "Do you guys like James? Like, when you wrote him, do you like him?" Like,
I think a big part of it was Scourge. Like, I think you sort of entrusted me to give like this extremely raw, emotional toll performance that would require a lot out of me, with like screaming and agonizing pain and all these things. It required a lot out of me, but I think you trusted me to do it because you've seen before how seriously I take some of these things.
Oh yeah.
What were you going to say, Ed?
I definitely noticed that James, he gets the shit beaten out of him in this episode, and that's just putting it lightly.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed that, he's definitely being picked on here. Kind of like, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Star Trek, but in Deep Space Nine, there's this character, Miles O'Brien. Once a season, there is an episode that is focused solely on him suffering. And
oh, geez.
Yeah.
I just noticed, actually, that this is like a little glitch in the game, but... So I was filming the, I didn't film the whole hangar scene at once. Again, what's nice about filming on PC is I can film it at my own pace. I don't have to schedule all these other body actors to get on. I can just spawn them in. But it looks like what happened here is sometimes when you spawn in a character, their eyebrows go missing. He looks kind of freaky, though, with that eyebrows, I gotta admit. But...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I barely noticed, man, honestly, but these were the little problems with the modding tools.
Yeah, and it's little things that sometimes you just didn't notice, because as you're filming it, sometimes you can't even see the eyebrows because they're so small unless you get really close to their face. But as you're filming it, playing the game, you don't notice these things until you get into the Rockstar editor and change the shots around and stuff. But I do like this scene, where it shows Jake as kind of a badass and stuff. Like not just like. He's not just a badass in the battlefield, but he's badass in other ways, where even someone as strong as Xander just cannot read Jake's mind. And what I like about it is it's not even a physical battle, it's a mental battle between brains. And that's just so fucking cool. I think, Scourge, you did a great job putting that in. I think when I initially wrote it, like, we kind of got a glimpse of that, but I think you wanted to dive into it more. That's where you came up with this whole, him literally being in Jake's head in this empty void to kind of symbolize it, and then we see like a younger Jake. It was a lot of fun creating him to like this, where I try to make him look somewhat kind of like James, and then kind of like what he did in GTA 4. But looking back in GTA 4, he looked nothing like this. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, I almost sort of wish that. I think my only I think I said this to you at the time, but I almost wished that we'd have given young Jake here some piercings, because the GTA 4 model always had a bunch of piercings randomly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think maybe my reason for that was I couldn't find the right face piercing, so I gave up. I can't remember. This was years ago. My only nitpick, though, for me personally with this scene is the backdrop of the void doesn't change. It's like a static thing. Because like later on when we start to see Xander being in people's minds and stuff, like the backdrop, it not only moves around, but every time the shot changes, the backdrop shot changes as well. And I think I took, note of that when I was doing those scenes, was because like if you watch this whole scene, it looks like a still picture behind them the whole time. So not only did I not want it to be a still frame, the background, but I wanted the background to move. And so later on in later episodes, we see that where every time the perspective of the character changes, of course the background shot should change as well, but this whole time it doesn't. But again, at the time we were getting used to the green screen effects and things, and we hadn't quite figured out that technique yet, but later on we do. And you live and learn. You live and learn. I guess if you're just watching this scene and looking at the characters, you don't notice that much, but, as someone that put it together, of course, I notice it. Now that I've told you guys, you probably can't unsee it, so, oops. Okay. But then, yeah, so this is also where I found, like, some really cool-looking explosion effects, but actually, there is kind of a problem with this scene, though. And I think Scourge might agree. So we established later on that Xander can't read the minds of other serum users. However, there's a slight problem in this scene right here, where they start to run away when his back is turned right here, but then Jake is like, and Maya's also like, and so is Carter. But he shouldn't be affected by that. Oops.
Yeah. In the beginning, I thought maybe we could say... I remember thinking it, and then thinking we could save it with the... I think the actual line in later episodes was, Xander can't control other serum users or something. And I thought, maybe he just attacked their mind, but he can't actually puppeteer them. Like, maybe you could imply that he can still do some sort of psionic attack, but he can't, dance for me, puppet,
Yeah.
That was my impression as well. Like we see later on that he can contact other serum users telepathically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you could imply that, he was, in Carter's brain at the time. Carter wasn't used to it, and then Xander was, imprinting this really disturbing image in Carter's head. Maybe something of Meryl. Who knows? I guess that's the implication. But it's hard to argue that, just because it's also affecting Jake and Maya at the same time. And James has just passed out. That's why he doesn't make any noise. Poor guy. Golly. But no, actually, I had a lot of fun filming this bit right here where Alex just slams into him with the plane. But like, how else are they gonna get out of there quickly? And I also played around with various explosions in the game. I gotta be honest, most of the because you can spawn in like an explosion in the game, I didn't like how a lot of them look, to be honest. They look very pixelated, very, the quality on them isn't good, and so that's why I settled on like explosion effects. And that shot with the explosion effect did take me a while, but personally, I think it came out pretty good. The only thing I wish I could do to make it a little better, to give it more of that kick, is have the screen shake. But, I think by the time I was so satisfied with the effect that I was like, yeah, okay, cool, moving on. But then cut to this scene here. What I actually did for this was I filmed the background. I filmed Jake in a green screen, running towards the camera. And then I masked in this smoke line by line, so that it looks like it's covering that door frame. So
That's really good, honestly, man. I didn't even realize that was Jake on green screen. I was about to just say good work masking that explosion into the doorway.
but see,
that's
if you
really
notice
cool.
right here, he's the smoke is behind him. So
Yeah.
and I think what I
see.
did to, sort of, I think pretty early on, I figured out how to do a color match in Vegas, where if a character looks too bright in a certain backdrop, you can ask Vegas to match like the brightness of what you're putting in. So like after I key out the green and stuff, because what you have to do when you're filming green screen is you want it to be as bright as possible, so that when you're in Vegas, Vegas can more easily identify where the green is and key that out. You don't want it to be too dark, otherwise you might accidentally key out parts of the character's body. And so you film it as bright as you can, and then through some visual effects trickery, you can ask Vegas to sort of match like the brightness and the contrast of what's remaining on the backdrop. But yeah, this whole thing I think works because it's so fast.
Yeah, for
You know.
sure.
But yeah, I'm really glad I was able to do that. But
One of
This-
my favorite
Mhm.
scenes is coming up, I think, in the whole series. The Jake Carter big bro to bro talk coming up.
yeah, I remember it might have been years and years ago when you sort of wrote like this, one-off scene where after Jake and Carter interacted after this whole thing. Because I remember years and years ago, you had this entire like sort of thing written out, and I wish I had it saved somewhere, but luckily I do remember some lines from it, such as where it started, which was, Carter is smoking, looking at a beach,
Yeah.
and all Jake says, "I didn't
weird,
know you
yeah.
smoke."
That line has existed for years somehow, hasn't it? I remember we talked about it so many times. That line and some of the other lines in here. It's weird how much of it was planned so far in advance. We were really looking forward to this scene specifically where they kind of reconcile.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you wrote out the whole additional background for why Carter wants to make everyone enhanced so much. I think you wanted to give him more of a reason for it, and which I really
Yeah.
like. I remember actually filming these scenes was actually not that difficult, because I mean a lot of these shots is just simply Carter by himself doing his own thing, and then him being in various locations, and I could just quickly spawn him in any interior that I wanted to. So surprisingly, these scenes here were actually not that hard for me. It was actually a nice break.
while we're on this stuff, I feel like again this is the best time to talk about any cutting room floor, unofficial headcanon-y type stuff. The whole backstory involving, I think we're coming to it, aren't we? Where Carter essentially gave Procasium to an old woman, and it made her young, and they
Yeah.
became enhanced together. The whole, again, just for extra reasoning of like why he hates NEPO and shit like that. They killed her and stuff, but. I don't know if it was headcanon, but one of the lines Carter says, he basically says, like, we spent a long time with each other and we both, like, rediscovered things and shit, and she got to feel young again and stuff. It was never said flat out, but I was trying to imply that her and Carter were romantic together.
Mm.
So it's slight extra heartbreak in a way, because Carter was like, okay, he doesn't get to be with his wife anymore. He gets this other partner, and then Nepo comes along and kills her as well.
Yeah.
So fuck Carter, basically.
Yeah. I think there is a line that said, we cared for each other, we figured things out together. So, well, even though you could say maybe they had a romantic relationship, maybe not, I still think it's, it's still bittersweet because they really cared for each other a lot. So even if they had a romantic relationship or not, they still, because I think there is a line too that says we understood each other. So I had a buddy of mine ask me, who was kind of confused in this scene where Nepo shoots her and she dies. He said, aren't serum users like bulletproof basically? Well, yes, but to a certain extent, right? So I think the implication is that Carter gave her an extremely small dose. He didn't want to give her a big dose or like any of the doses that he has to take, but he gave her a very small dose because I think he knows how severe even like the smallest dose can be, how severe it is. So I think the idea here is he gave her an extremely small little dose so that she wouldn't. He didn't want her to be on his level. Basically, I think he was worried how it would affect her. So
this right here, this was the beginning of villain Carter right here. Because when you think about it, like Carter and Jake, they're not really strangers to killing humans because they'd been in the military together and shit.
Yeah.
But for Carter in this scene, it was very much like I'm going to murder these guys, right? It was legit the first time Carter was like killing for the sake of revenge and stuff. Like fuck this, Well, not the first time, but just in hatred or whatever, He started to become darker.
Yeah, I do like these kind of like character, arc changes and stuff. It's like it's really. I think Carter probably, out of everyone in the show, has the saddest backstory. Like from being separated from his family to being experimented on. And then, he got rescued, but he was put up in this, orphanage. And then no one really wanted him. And then he sort of saw his life as being pointless. So he decided to just join the army and was like, well, if I die, fuck it. And then that's when, of course, he meets Jake. But then they get back to New York. And then all havoc breaks loose with the gang lords and stuff. And then after that, he's like, look, I just want to calm down and relax. And then the infection breaks out. And then after the infection breaks out, then he fucking dies. And then he can't even rest then, because this crazy Russian scientist brings him back. And, it's messing with his brain and stuff. And then after that, he when he's escapes from that, does his own thing. Then, of course, he comes across that old woman. And then when he gets a little glimpse of hope, they kill her. Yeah. Then after that, when he's really sitting on a dark path, he finds out about the osmosis device, and then that's when he's like, okay, maybe there's a way to fix the world because I've dealt with it firsthand. There's so many fucking problems in this world. And then after that, when he comes across his brother again, and they fight, and then all these things happen in ZAR, and then he dies again. It's so sad.
I think we did a really good job with both Xander and Carter here in terms of making villains believable. Like, okay, they're a villain, but why? And then, like, we really nailed it with, like, you could believe these people became evil,
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think looking at, like, Carter's arc overall from where he started, what happened to him, and then where he ended up, I think is probably one of the best arcs we've written for a character, because it almost reminds me of like a really much more mature and depressing tone for the character of Zuko from Last Airbender, where he redeems himself and stuff, but even more so like a darker, more mature thing to it. Because Zuko had like, he was in a royalty family and stuff, but his father didn't want anything to do with him, and then he was a bad guy initially, then he sort of turned things around, but even Carter didn't get the chance to like, see the world after Pocassian had been cleansed. So sad.
Bro, I think the line that you came in with in this scene where, after the whole, like, what was the name of that town? Perryville, and then Jake came in with that, like, my brother's still in there, like, walks up to him. The way you said that, I remember a friend watching it, like, when it came out with me. And when you said that and Jake came in, my friend turned to me like that. He was like, right in the feels, man.
I gotta be honest, so that particular exchange between those lines, which I remember when I sent you the script, you left that whole exchange alone. You told me, I love this. I have zero complaints. Great. And you just left it alone. And I'm so glad you did, because honestly, throughout planning the series and stuff, there's certain tidbits here and there where like you want certain things to happen in the show, and then when you get to the episode, you want these little things that you planned in your head years ago to happen. A lot of my, thinking of like what should happen, it's going to be epic, was ended up being in the finale. But with that particular exchange, you know, it's like these little tidbits that you think about as you brainstorm years back, and then you decide to implement it into the writing. And so that little exchange I had planned years ago. And so I don't know where I came. Oh, actually, I do remember where I came up with the name Perryville. I was legit looking up towns in real life that are between New York City to DC, because I've done that drive actually, and I remember driving through, you know, those little one-street towns that you go through. But I wanted one that was like truly like tiny and whatever. Just scrolling on Google Maps one day, and I found one. I can't remember what state it was in, but that's irrelevant. It was somewhere, but you know, in the halfway mark between both cities, and yeah, then this whole like idea of, you know, hey, they had this cool trip plan, but things didn't go according to plan, and then you know, they kind of had a little brother to brother moment, and the whole idea of it was, you know, even though things didn't go according to plan, they were still together. They still had a good time just because they enjoyed each other's company, and that leads into, you know, Jake saying it's one of my favorite memories. The word memories, where did that come from? Oh yeah, that's what you said to me before during the New York stuff, isn't it? So he uses, see, Jake is really good at, you know, punching the feels, I think, is he uses Carter's logic against him. That's why Carter doesn't say anything. Because he's like, damn, he's got a point.
Yep, he already knows, yeah.
So,
damn.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to implement that.
There's so much to say in each of these, like talking about each episode. It's blowing my mind with how much there is to say.
But then, oh yeah, I think this typing text that you see on the screen that I figured out how to do in episode 1, it's called a typewriter effect. Believe it or not, I didn't even know this was possible in Vegas until I was randomly browsing on YouTube one day and I saw a video of someone explaining how to do it. I remember when I showed you the first time, Scourge, you were that little thing, just the typing, you were blown away. You're like, whoa, how'd you do that? Yeah. I didn't know you could do that.
We're legit always teaching each other different stuff. And not to mention, because I think you did say it in the earlier eps that you weren't happy with the text that was used. And I think that just looked so much cleaner. This looks way cleaner. Yeah.
It's more thin. It looks more professional. You know, it's not like super bulky and things. So, and then, oh gosh, yeah, I remember filming this. James's body, I had to animate him just laying down, and he kept flying off the boat over and over again. So this scene right here, he must have fell off like 20 times. That's why no shot goes on for too long, because he kept falling off! But I do need to address a couple things with this whole yacht scene. So, this whole scene here, when they get to the yacht with Marcus and stuff. So initially, when I filmed it on the PC, the yacht is black and yellow to kind of imply that it's like armored, as Marcus was saying. Because I always wanted to fight on the yacht, because we saw that a bit in the trailer, so I knew this was going to have to happen. But if you watch the fight scene during this, you'll notice that sometimes you could probably tell when it cuts to being on the console and when it's on the PC. Most notably when like the frame rate is cleaner, that's when it's on the PC. But I think the other thing with filming all this is that when it's on the console, like right here, the boat's white. It's not black. And what's frustrating is, you know, I kind of shot myself in the foot, because I think I filmed the stuff on PC first, and then when it was time to film it on the console, the black paint for the yacht is extremely expensive for some stupid reason. And Justice, this was his yacht that we were using, didn't have that color unlocked. And understandably so, he didn't want to buy it because it was absurdly expensive. And I was like, oh fuck, we already filmed all this stuff on the PC, so I can't go back and do it. That's why it intercuts between black yacht, white yacht, and stuff. The other sort of problem I have with this that people have called me out on, and I do want to get this cleared up, because I tried to explain it before, but it was kind of difficult to. So throughout this fight scene, obviously Marcus, he has a darker skin on PC. That's what his character is. But if you watch some shots of him fighting in this fight scene here, he has white skin. And why is that? Well, so we had a I don't know if y'all have played. I'm sure everybody watching here has played GTA Online, but the problem is that when you create a new character, you can change their hairstyle and their facial hair, all that good stuff. You can't change their skin color after you create them. And so, of all the body actors that we had, unfortunately, nobody had a black character. Nobody. So by that point, I had no choice but to just go with it. But Marcus is a black character. It's canon. It's how he looks. But on the console, no one that I was playing with had a black character model. In retrospect, could I have put out a public post and been like, does anyone have a black character in GTA Online we can use so that it's consistent with how he looks? But, by that point it was too late. And honestly, I just kind of wanted to get it done. I think what I should have done, to be totally honest, is just show on the console during this fight scene, just show Marcus from the back, not his face. So that's been a big criticism, and I wanted to clear up. Hopefully that explains it. But I get it. It's kind of jarring. To me, the color of the yacht is more jarring than anything else. So, but what's also weird is on the PC, after I would spawn in the yacht, even though I made sure that while I was filming it, the color of it was black, sometimes, not all the time, when I would go back to record the shots or rearrange the shots and stuff, it would revert to white. It just kept reverting to the default color. So that's by far my biggest problem with this scene here. But this whole scene was inspired by episode from Game of Thrones, the Spoils of War episode, when there's like this line of like all these horsemen that go to attack the other army. I haven't seen it in so long, so I forgot what they were called. But that's what this whole thing was inspired by. And of course, instead of a giant dragon, we have a giant plane, which I'm really happy I was able to get. Because obviously, yeah, it's a mod. This is not something that you can get in the game. But I wanted like this giant force thing, because they have like a similar thing in that Game of Thrones episode. And if you watched it and listen closely, even the music is from Game of Thrones. So, but obviously, it's set in the 2050. So they have technology. But yeah, that's what it was. The whole thing was inspired by. And so the reason why I was mix and mashing console footage and PC footage for this whole thing was because I think I mentioned this before, but when you're on PC, if you're recording the action, of the character, it's really hard to do in a flying vehicle. But also, if that vehicle has guns on it, if you record that, the shooting of the guns don't register for some reason. And I knew it would be a pain for me to do that on PC, because what I would have to do is I would have to control each flyable vehicle one by one and show them shooting. But I wanted shots where both or multiple vehicles were shooting at once in the same shot. And I figured I didn't know how else to do it at the time, so I said the only way you could do it is on the console, because I can tell people what to do. So I think this is actually the last time I used console footage, just because at the time I didn't know if there was a better way to do it. And looking back, I don't think there was. But later on, in later episodes, like in the finale, I'll talk about ways I got that to work. But at the time, I didn't think there was any other way to do it. But beyond that, I do like this action scene. But the huge challenge was, again, mixing between filming on console, filming on PC. There's another thing, too, is you might notice is, like, the weather changes, the time of day keeps changing. Like, when we were filming on the console, we would have to wait for it to become daytime again. Like, oh, we're shooting and shooting. Oh, guys, it's nighttime. We gotta pause. We gotta wait in the game until it turns daytime. And then the other thing filming on console was also another nitpick in mind with this scene. is I fucking hate how some of the zombies look when they make it to the ship. Like right around here.
Yeah, so
Like the
there's
pink
only
hair.
so much.
Really?
There's only so much that could be done. I was actually going to bring. I didn't know when to bring this up, but it's something I did want to discuss here in this commentary. There's something about Xander and his men, his minions and such that I'm sort of sad that we never did. And I don't know if you'll agree or disagree with this, Josh, but we just sort of had it where it was zombies again. And I know, it's zombie attack and such, so you'd expect it to just be zombies across the board. But I almost wish that it was just we implied that the people that Xander has mind controlled are now his minions. Maybe some of them are just regular people, like civilians, and some of them might still be semi-aware of what they're doing. And they might be like, please help me, or kill me. Kill me, I'm in such pain. I've killed so many people. Please end my life. Like, that would have been very dark and showed off more of Xander's mind control fuckery and stuff. I don't know. I feel like that might have been a little bit better than all this face paint and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of, like, some of them are infected with, like, the pure black eyes and stuff. I think I came up with that idea later on. But some of them just look like regular people. But I think, yeah, it would have been nice to have, like, someone that or even someone that looks infected being like, please kill me. I can't take it anymore. Yeah. Yeah, another challenge of this was getting the anti-air guns. I remember when we were filming that on the console, where I told someone, all right, turn it on. All of those flying vehicles around the ship were blowing up so fast. And I was like, oh my gosh! Ah! And that shit was loud, too. Like, all of those... I mean, it looks cool, but goodness. That was... Oof. But it's a good thing the yacht can't blow up in the game, otherwise he would have been screwed. But...
yeah.
So... Great scene, though.
And I do kind of like the way how it ends, but, like, one of... it's kind of... Maybe you'll agree with me, Scourge, maybe not, but, like, when Carter comes back, he's sitting on top of a plane for some reason. He just got there. How? How in the fuck did he get on there?
I guess he must have... Yeah, I don't know where they took off from. It's sort of a plot hole, right? Because wherever they took off from might have been around where Xander was, maybe, or like a base. So it would imply that Carter was already there somehow, Like, it sort of doesn't make any sense in a way, but I guess he must have just seen one of them taking off, right, and grabbed on. But it looks so awkward. How did you even do this? Like,
this was a pain. So, what I had to do... So, again, you can't... I think I said this before. If you're flying a vehicle, and if you're controlling them and trying to record the actions of them flying in a jet, the recorded actions you do just don't work. So if you play back what you filmed in a jet, they just keep crashing. And so, however, if you don't record any action that they do, if you just spawn them in and just put them in a jet, but you don't record their actions, you just leave them alone, what they do is they just fly in a circle the whole time. But you can't record any action that they do because they'll just fly down and crash. And so this whole time, he's just flying in a circle. And so I was controlling Carter at the time. And I had no idea how the game let me, but I was able to just get him to stay there. Because by sitting down crouching, because if I stood up, he would fly off. But crouching,
what the fuck? I didn't know you could
stay.
do that. I was convinced you were using some sort of mod or something. That's insane. How the hell?
Yeah. But right there, you saw he was about to walk off the wing, and I cut it before he fell off. So, but I do like how it came out, but I was very happy to because I think he flew off the jet like 3 or 4 times, and then what I would have to do was spawn the jet in, and then put Carter on top of it, fly the jet, fly it near the yacht, hoping the Carter model would stay on the whole time, then flip back over to the Carter character and try to keep him on. That whole process was a pain. So, but it finally came out. And then I do like this whole aftermath scene here, because like they have nowhere to go. They're just sitting around a bonfire, and then Carter and Alex make amends and stuff. So, and I do like how they're kind of separated from the others, because they're not quite fully on board with each other joining the team yet, and so they're kind of, even though they're close to each other, they're kind of off doing their own thing. So I think that's pretty realistic. I remember in the script, Scourge, you wrote that James was on like this, what's it called? When you have like a cast and you have those things to help you move along. What's that called again?
Crutches?
Crutches, thank you.
Yeah.
I think you wrote in the script it was implied that he had a crutch, but there is no animation or anything in the game where that was a thing. So I said, hey, he'll just move around all limply.
Yeah, I think, honestly, in some cases, I was just guessing what was in the game. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe there's a crutch, fuck it, I don't know.
That's why later on, before I started writing stuff in the script, I would make sure that it would be possible in the game before I would even start writing it. So, but then this whole inspiration for them getting to the New Horizon base, showing landscapes and stuff, this whole ending scene was inspired by a part in a game, Dragon Age Inquisition, when they first find the Skyhold fortress.
Oh my god, I see it.
So like the music is the same, the shots look pretty similar, even Jake says lines that are extremely similar. But I do like it. Like the thing is though, is that when you get into the bunker in the game, there's no like outward entrance. It just sort of cuts and they're in there. And that's sort of a running thing throughout the show, is you never see them go in there, right? It's just cuts and they're there. Or if you look, I do some through some trickery shots, is you see if a helicopter is like flying down, it flies like behind like this hill, and as they go down, it cuts and they're flying inside the bunker. So that's how I got away with that. But yeah, I do like this scene here, and it shows like, hey, there's some hope. They got a base back, or a new base, because Jake has his connections, I'm sure. But then after the credits, we see, oh, James has officially lost it. I think you came up with that scene, Scourge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole "why wasn't it you?" blood written on the wall, and then when it ends, he's like chuckling.
Yeah,
it was kind of fun to play crazy, I gotta admit.
For sure, man. I can imagine. I think that there were a couple people, at least on my end, who really believed at this point that James was just gone. Like the way it was done, like they were like, "Wow, see you, James," So
he's turning into the next Eddie.
Yep.
Love that. But yeah, there's episode 6. Let's move on here. Episode 7. So we touched on this briefly, but between episodes 6 and 7, this was like one of the shortest wait times between episodes. I think the reason for that is like because of the time, right after we finished episode 6, I already had a rough draft for episode 7, and it was just like, the stars aligned, it was the right place, right time. I had way more free time. And plus, with, filming on PC and how much easier it was than having to schedule time with other people, and getting to know the mods and stuff, I think a big thing for me was I wanted to utilize the mods a lot more in terms of, like, the interiors I could get into. That's why this episode, you see Carter and Alex, they go to that server farm that you could go to in one of the heist missions in GTA Online, as well as the submarine. I was very happy I found a submarine mod, like with the exterior of it, and then you could also spawn inside one again from one of the heist missions in the game. So I wanted to utilize the interiors a lot more. So I think that was a big reason why I wrote the episode around that, with like the nuclear weapons, and they had to stop them and stuff. And actually, a big thing with this episode is after the nuclear bombs get launched, I thought my initial thought process, Scourge, because I don't think you wrote too many revisions in this episode, but there is one that you made where Carter and Gordon have like this back and forth, and it's sort of implied quickly that a third of humanity was wiped out. Like that was just like, you know, a one-off thing. But then I decided to dive into that a lot more because that's a pretty big deal.
It's a big deal for sure, yeah. And highest stakes so far in the entire story. And on the topic of, because I'm sure you're going to go more into it, but on the topic of like little pieces that I threw in the episode, there's actually a plot hole in this episode that I don't know if you noticed with me. It was do you know when Jake and Gordon raided the sub and then they were escaping as the Procasium was entering the sub, the Procasium gas?
Yes.
They were swimming away, weren't they, through the water, him and Jake, and the Procasium, the red Procasium is in the water. And Gordon was like, it's in the water. And Jake's like, keep going or whatever. And I'm like, how did I forget that Procasium's one weakness is the water?
Fuck.
I was like, how the fuck did I forget that?
Yeah.
There's a huge plot hole. It's super Procasium, don't worry.
Maybe you could say Procasium is evolving because as we've seen even in Legacies, zombies were able to swim. So maybe at this point, it's starting to evolve and mutate, and Xander probably figured out a way, because, you know, with Procasium, it actually enhances your intelligence as well, and Xander probably figured out a way to evolve it and mutate it.
Maybe, yeah, for sure.
Plot hole fixed. Yay!
There you go.
It's not a plot hole. Let's go. Thank you, Josh. You're welcome. Thank you, Xander, for making Procasium more dangerous. Yay! Oh man, I remember though I was kind of shocked by it, to be honest.
You're very welcome for that, by the way.
Thank you so much. People were telling me that like this is like their favorite episode so far, which really amazed me. I don't know why. Just because I think it's because when we had the synopsis of what was going to happen in this episode, it was very vague. Oh, they have to stop nuclear bombs from launching, and they fail. It's very simple, and it's significantly shorter than episode 6, and I think this is an episode where, I mean, I could be totally wrong on this, but I think, apart from one part that I'll get to, this is probably the episode where I had the least amount of trouble putting together, to be totally honest, because like a lot of it's in interiors, a lot of it is characters talking inside the bunker, and you know, pretty straightforward stuff. I think the only one of the biggest challenges I had filming this episode was when James and Maya are fighting the Zams. There's a right here, them running through this maze. So again, it's from the trailer, so I had to put it in. But the challenge filming this scene was when you're recording the actions of a character with that mod. As you know, Scourge, sometimes, even if it's relatively straightforward, you go, hey, I want you to run straight and then turn right. And then when you play back their actions, they don't always follow those rules that you had set, do they?
Nope. Sometimes they'll just go right off a cliff.
And a lot of times during that particular scene, they just kept running into the wall, and then they would get stuck over and over and over again. And that was so annoying. So annoying.
Yeah.
But apart from that being, you know, a pain to put together, I think this episode is pretty straightforward. And I think a reason why Xander is mostly absent in this is because obviously after he gets back the osmosis part from Catherine, he's off, you know, making sure that it's being put together efficiently. And plus, by this point, Xander's getting so powerful, as demonstrated in episode 6, if he does interact with some of the non-serum users, they're basically screwed. So I wanted to dive into more like with James's, you know, craziness and develop that a lot more, and then try to resolve that plot line before we move on to the next part of the story. I think that was pretty important because I needed to wrap that up to continue on with other stuff that was going to happen.
Yeah, and we injured James again in this episode. Fuck James, we hate James.
Even Jake is like, you gotta be kidding me, he was just patched up!
Yeah.
And then My only nitpick with this scene here with Carter and Alex fighting the zombies is that I think by this point I was just sort of spawning in random NPCs. Whenever I would spawn one, I would just hit, randomize with their colors and stuff. And the other problem, they look way too colorful, not that scary. But the other problem with that too is sometimes they fight the same looking zombie over and over again. And then my friend Nightmare pointed it out to me. He's like, "Oh, they're fighting like clone zombies," and I was like, "Oh, damn it, he noticed that." So in later episodes, and again, way more work, what I had to do was, for every single new action scene, whenever a zombie would die, I would have to spawn in a new zombie and then make them look different, but also make them look scary. Don't make them look colorful or anything. And
dude, the bane of my existence in this game is the rainbow, the colored flag backpacks or whatever, the parachutes, the rainbow parachute or whatever. It's the bane of my existence. It ruins every zombie when I see it. You know what I mean? They look way too colorful. I'm like, these zombies are from Brazil or something.
And like the checker pants, like, dude, it looks so dumb. And like, the other problem with this scene here is for Carter and Alex, it takes them like 4 or 5 punches for them to go down, and then they go down. But later on,
they weren't even implied to be berserkers or anything, were they?
Correct. Yeah. But that's because like I didn't know this till later on. Well, I sort of tried to figure that out. So in later episodes, I turn on the explosive fists, so that when they do one punch, they go down immediately. But it looks weird because when they fight like berserkers or whatever, they don't have that explosive punch anymore. I got around this in some of the last episodes by turning up the damage multiplier. But you have to be so careful with that, because if you're in a fist fight with another NPC, what I had to do was I had to turn up the damage multiplier, get that character angry at me so they would start fighting me. After they start fighting me, I would have to quickly turn on invincibility as fast as possible, because again, in like 1 or 2 hits, I would die, and I would have to redo the whole scene. So, but that's how I figured it out, was turn up the damage multiplier for characters. But if it looks... But later on, I kind of figured it out with like the explosive fist, like I said, but it kind of looks like a bit strange, because when, Carter and Alex are punching people, you see like this little explosion, and then when they punch berserkers, you don't see it. You're like, what the fuck? So, yeah. Little things like that, again, you just kind of have to learn as you go. So, but beyond that, I don't really have any complaints of those fight scenes. When Jake and all of them go to look for Jake, I do like that scene when they go to investigate the cave. It's actually, I think, a pretty scary scene because of how dark it is and stuff, and then they see James being covered in blood and everything. I do like this scene a lot, where James is like about to point a gun at Maya, but he can't do it, and then you just hear this shot. You don't know what happened, but it was Charlene who was shooting up in the air, and she just like throws her gun down. And then I think, Scourge, you wrote this a while back, where Maya would tranquilize James. I think that was your idea.
Yeah. I think it was... it just makes the most sense, right? They're not going to gun him down. They're going to try and take him, His girlfriend's not going to kill him. My goodness. I think early on we were saying like maybe they'd shoot him in the leg or something, but like we were just thinking like, this is ridiculous now. James is taking way too much damage, Yeah.
And he does take more damage later on, but I think after this, I think I knew that I needed to give him a break. That's why in episode 8, he's pretty absent from it, and Maya goes with him, to make sure that he stays calm. I think that was really important, to get him away from all the craziness so he calms the fuck down.
Yeah.
Like, he needs a break, goodness. But the scene, though, with Jake and James, I do like a lot, because I thought about this whole scene a long time ago, like, how does James come to his senses? Well, I always imagine Jake should be the one to do it, where he's able to convince him to stop being crazy, and then they hug it out and stuff. A lot of people told me that, like, when they watched this, they kind of got teary-eyed, which I was like, oh, Didn't expect that.
That's so interesting that you say that as well, because not only is this great because it's the closure to the hinting of James's sort of downfall of his mind back in Legacies. All of it has led to this scene where it all ends, and that what's coming up with James basically letting go of Eli and of Eddie and you know, and Yvonne. That teared me up. I remember. I even remember when I voiced that Eli line in that scene. At the time, obviously not counting stuff in the finale, but at the time I thought this would be the last time I voice Eli. So I was kind of like, he's gone for good now. He's really dead. Salute, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I think
here's a fact that not a lot of people know. I voiced Yvonne in this episode.
Yes, you did.
You did. You sure did. And I made sure to not give you that many lines as Yvonne. That was important.
Greatly appreciated, because it's very hard on my throat.
Yeah, you're welcome. This was actually, for me, filming this was very bittersweet, because you're saying goodbye to 3 characters I created forever. This is it. And even Justice was a bit emotional voicing Eddie, because this might be the last time he ever voices him. So, but it's important, you know, because James needs the closure. And as tough that is as it is, and this is kind of a running thing throughout the whole Revelations, isn't it? Which is saying goodbye to someone you care about because you know it's for the best. Like, that's a tough pill to swallow, but it has to be done. I think that's like a running theme throughout the show, isn't it? But I do like it quite a bit, and I do like how I filmed it at the gas station, you know, because that's where Eddie died. It's where James probably has a lot of trauma from that experience and stuff. So, but I do like how it turned out. And then what's kind of interesting though is this actually wasn't in the script, Scourge. I think you were really like surprised I put this in, where Carter goes to visit Meryl. Because before we just implied he was going to go see her, but we didn't actually see it. But then as this goes on, Jake is narrating how important it is to see the hope in the dark and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I think you were surprised I put this in, weren't you?
Yeah, but
pleasantly so.
It worked in retrospect. Yeah, it was nice to see. It was a nice little surprise. And I also thought the closing of this episode was extremely solid as well. Like, your idea to have James and Maya essentially separate from the cast. I remember I was so on the fence about that at the time. Like, we're really going to be making James and Maya disappear for a good few episodes, you know? I was like, how's this going to turn out?
Yeah, that was important to me just because, again, I wanted James to give him time to cool off. And I knew what was going to happen in the finale, right? Where we would have all these people come together to take on Xander, and it was important that James go to these various locations around the world, gather all these allies, because I knew the scope for the finale was going to be huge, and I didn't just want all these allies to just suddenly show up. I'm like, okay, what didn't y'all before? Well, but because James is now acting commander again, and they have those treaties, he has to go there and recruit all these people. And so he also goes off with Maya to make sure that James stays calm. And the other aspect of that, too, is I wanted to give other characters more time to shine. Because, like, in episode 7, we give so much screen time to James. And we also get a lot of screen time for Maya later on. But I wanted other characters to shine quite a bit. For example, Alex. And that would have been way too hard to do, having... I didn't want, like, a bloated cast, you know?
Yeah, it really does. Right from around this area, it kind of transitions into the Jake, Carter, and Alex show for a little bit.
Yeah. But the only thing I want to comment on in this last scene here, when because I'm kind of glad I found like this animation for Alex where it looks like he's having a seizure, but I didn't know this till later. But you can actually position like how high up from the ground a character can be when doing this animation, because what's kind of funny is this animation right here. So this is, I believe it's one that Michael does after he wakes up from having a nightmare when he wakes up in bed. But the problem with this animation is by default, they float in the air. And the reason is because he's on top of a bed. And I didn't know this till later, but you can actually lower where they would be. But because I didn't know you could do that at this point, I just threw this random glass table on there. Yeah.
Couldn't give him something more dignified, huh? Just a glass table.
Yeah, Carter threw him on there. I'm like, dude, there is a bed literally in the other room, Carter. I guess he just panicked and, didn't want to carry him. So whatever. It works. But this is also the first time where we cut from the literal underground bunker, like this cave system, to this more clean one that came out in a later update. So I implemented this because by this point I already filmed so much of that underground cave bunker in this episode that I figured, it looks a bit too claustrophobic for my liking, and plus there's other rooms in this other bunker that would look great for story purposes. And so it's sort of implied that that underground cave and this one are like interconnected, like it's the same location. And utilizing that space that this has, I think, really helped me out a lot more to really expand the base that they're at, because this is their home. They spend a lot of time here, so I don't want it to just be that deep cave system the whole time. So, but again, the problem with it is going back to how episode 6 started, the doctor and the nurse being in this area. Come on, Josh, you could do better than that, my dude. But I do like how it ends. Alex is like, "Yeah, I remember everything," and it cuts. Like, wait, what? What? I'm just a fan of episodes ending in like such a cliffhanger way where you cannot wait to see what happens next. So that's a big thing.
I really liked how we expanded Carter and Alex's relationship as well.
Yeah,
like they went from just like working together to really caring about each other. It was very nice, very cute.
Yeah, because at this point, in Alpha Protocol, I guess in your original vision, they were never going to interact, right? Because they weren't ever going to meet until maybe later on. But here we get to expand upon it a lot more. They almost go from like just co-workers to really, really close friends.
And of course, like we're okay spoiler talk here anyway, because this is the commentary and such. But it's just sort of ironic as well, isn't it? Because how much Carter hated Kurt, but Kurt's son, he's kind of okay with.
Yeah.
It's really funny in a way that Carter ended up being like the teacher of Kurt's son of all people, Kurt's clone.
Yeah, little to Kurt, like the catalyst of his creation ends up helping the people that he tried to kill.
Yep.
So awkward. Episode 8. So episode 8, I think this is really where things, as if they weren't already up a notch, I wanted to turn it up to 11 here, because at this point, we haven't really seen Xander fight another serum user. We kind of saw it in episode 6 when he fought Carter, but it was very brief, there wasn't a lot of it, and I wanted to showcase more, like, Xander's, more of his abilities and things, and that's when I introduced, like, the telekinesis ability that he has. Because, if he can read people's minds, it would just make sense that he has other telepathic abilities and stuff, so, but, when he, like, controls the plane and other things like that. I knew that adding that ability, though, you have to be very careful whenever you give a certain character an ability, because every time they show up, you're going to be like, well, why didn't they use this ability, or why didn't they do that? So, before you add those things, you have to be very, very careful with that. So, that's why, in episode 9, we don't see Xander fight, like, at all, because he's mostly just getting, his plans together. So, I think that was the best move for me. But I do like how I was able to finally use this North Yankton map, where Xander's escaping their captivity, and it showcases, like, what he's been up to, and it's so sad because the contrast of this is the same location, like this underground place of all the homeless people. This is the same spot Carter was at, and I think that was important for me to have that, because their storylines are so like their backstories are very, very similar. So I think that was pretty important to showcase like their actions they're taking and stuff, and like how each of them deal with trauma. And then the whole thing here, with, because I always wanted, to showcase Gordon, his intelligence and stuff, and his knack for like building tech and things. And ever since Rockstar added a jetpack in the game, I was like, damn it, I really want to use that, even though it's kind of absurd. Who cares? This takes place in the future. Leave me alone. It's possible, okay? I don't think anyone really disputed it. So, I mean, it worked for what it was. I think it gives Gordon more to do. Gives more to do, and he's sort of like the aerial attack guy from here on out. So,
hey, it suspended my disbelief.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of accept it. But here, so it's kind of funny because Alex says at the end of episode 7 he remembers everything, and yet in this episode he says, I do, but I also don't. This was like kind of hard to write because I wanted to showcase more about like Alex's character and give more of like, context behind him and stuff. But I also didn't want to just outright say, oh yeah, he remembers where he comes from, because Scourge, me and you wanted to wait to reveal that till like literally the very end of the show. But I also wanted to show off like more of what Alex has been up to, because he talked about these things like, I remember waking up in a forest and I saw things sideways and I see glimpses of these things. I was trying to tie them together in this whole like Alex flashback thing. And so I was like, hey, what if he lost his memory twice?
Yeah, I think we just weren't quite ready to discuss the actual origin of Alex just yet. We pretty much figured that had come at the very end. So
yeah, I think we both knew, he's Kurt's son, but he didn't know that was really the case. Because at this point, Alex is getting like these flashes and headaches and stuff. And after that seizure he doesn't get them anymore. Like, this is the entire memory he has of being alive. And so I was like, what if, he uses his abilities too quickly before his body is like fully rested up and ready to go? And what if it causes too much strain on him? Because I remember there's a line he says in the Alpha Protocol trailer, all I remember is I woke up and I started running. And you could see that kind of when he wakes up in the desert at the end of this flashback. And the only thing he remembers is his name. So I think I was kind of able to get away with that.
Yeah.
But I think, like, for the most part, like, the first half of this episode is pretty laid back, it's pretty chill. We get to explore Alex's character a lot more. The latter half is that crazy fight with Xander. I think it's paced pretty well, so... But the idea for Father Clyde, this kind of came about randomly a long time ago when I was thinking about, adding more depth to Alex's character. I wanted him to interact with someone that was like very wise and give him like very sound advice and things. And if he loses them, then he goes off on like this, blood revenge path, and then he uses his powers too chaotically, and then he loses memory again. But I wanted someone to kind of like guide him and help him on the way just a little bit. And so that's where the idea of Father Clyde came along. However, I had a little bit of a problem. I didn't really know of any old guy that was, willing to voice him. Like, I couldn't find anyone. And then Ed here was like, hey, I can give it a shot.
Yep. And it was a real pleasure playing Father Clyde in this.
Josh, I think you and me can agree that Ed pulled off the southern accent way better than you and me did back in the day.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Even though
Thank you.
Kind of from the South, I never really developed that accent. So Ed's one talented dude. It's
Thank
funny
you.
when people watched it, they had no idea that the Xander voice actor was Father Clyde until I told them, and they were like, "What?"
didn't in the
Listen
beginning
very
either.
closely.
I didn't in the beginning until about like halfway in to this whole flashback sequence. There was a certain twinge of Xander, and I was like, wait a minute, Ed, the fuck?
Yep. I actually showed this episode to my then girlfriend at the time, and when she saw this, she was like, "Oh my God, that's you!" Yeah, I mean, Josh pitched my voice down a little bit, but yeah, that's me, sweetheart, that's me. And yeah, I just had so much fun playing the wizened old sage, the wizened old priest, because, well, to me, as a D&D player and dungeon master, those are the kinds of characters that I like to create. The sage, the wizard character who is basically a walking dictionary or things like that. But to actually get to play a character like this in a production, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna run it. I'm going to lunge at that, grab onto it, and not let go.
A huge contrast between what you were doing with Xander as well.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
I bet it was fun to play as like the total opposite of the spectrum in terms of like personalities.
Oh yes, and I noted this. I think I noted this earlier in one of the comments for this episode, but with Father Clyde, I kept the ad-libs to a minimum. There's only one line that I made up on the spot, and it was completely in character, and you used it. And with Father Clyde, because he is a person of he's a man of the cloth. A character like him is not going to go around dropping F-bombs and profanity wherever he goes. So obviously, I'm going to treat the character with a lot more respect whenever I ad-lib.
Yeah. Yeah, what I like too is fun little fact. You put it in the comments, but for those of y'all that don't know, this scene when Father Clyde is drinking, there's actually a burp that he does. He goes, oh, but yes! Ed, you stayed in character and you went, oh, excuse me.
Yep, that was a blooper that I accidentally left in. I thought I cut it out, but nope. And I was like, oh my god, Josh, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to leave that in. You were like, whoa, relax, Ed. We're gonna find some way to work this in.
Okay? And it makes sense because he's drinking. You know, of course he's gonna burp.
Exactly.
But I think it makes like that little like, you know, quirky thing that I kept in. You know, I kind of like how he's not like super serious all the time. You know, like he's a pretty chill dude. I think that little thing, you know, sometimes that can add so much to a character. They're not just like this stiff wooden board. They're a human being. They have personalities. They have goals. They have aspirations. And, you know, we all have a little bit of a sense of humor here and there. So I think it just adds way more to him. And that makes, I think, of course, because he dies later on, that makes it so much more tragic, you know. He's just like, yeah, he's a priest, but he's also a dude. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I
don't want to make him like overly preachy or anything, but I think some of the things he was trying to teach Alex are very noble. You know, look out for yourself, help other people, help out your community, yada yada yada. I think getting those early teachings later on, I think solidify Alex to like not want to just go on a killing spree like Kurt did. You know, so I think that was important to me. But this whole like bike scene, this bike gang stuff. Was implied that like Alex was in deep shit with the biker gang in Alpha Protocol Scourge, but I wanted to add a lot more to like why do they hate him so much?
Right, got you.
Yeah, but because he killed one of their own, and they don't like that.
Yeah.
But then that leads to Father Clyde getting killed and stuff. Then he goes on a pissed off rampage. So, but I wanted to mention earlier, but this whole scene, this exchange when they first meet, this whole dialogue exchange where, Father Clyde is like, are you a victim or are you a killer? And Alex is like, I don't know. He's like, what's your name, son? I don't know that either. He's like, okay, what do you know? English. That whole exchange, that was inspired by a scene in the film Cowboys and Aliens, because there's Daniel Craig plays a guy where he's also amnesiac, and he also interacts with the priest who asks him the exact same questions. So that dialogue exchange plays out very similar here. And I love that dialogue exchange in that movie, and I wanted to implement it in some way, so that's where that comes from.
Nice.
But the
Nicely done.
Oh yes, the building on fire. So you did it in episode 4. Now it was my turn, and holy crap, I understand why getting fire to stay in a certain spot was really hard, because it goes away so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So now I get it. I get it. It's so annoying. And then there's another bit here. Where Alex gets his jacket. That's nice to see. But when he's in downtown doing his thing, I'm like, this is actually pretty challenging, because he's chasing after the car and he's so fast that he runs like that. Man, that was a pain to put together, because I cannot find like the effects that I wanted for it. And so that's why you don't see the car and Alex running at the same time. It was like separated, because I need to figure out a way for him to get in front of it, but you don't really see him do that. But I sort of improvised it, made it up as I went along. But it was not fun to make.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got to end with his meeting with Marcus and such. Or just imply that a little bit, because it was something that was planned for Alpha Protocol again that just never happened. It was going to come up in Alpha Protocol episode 2, but we never got that far. So
yeah, and I don't know if, I guess people didn't really complain about it, so I guess it's a good thing. But again, I couldn't find the voice actors that I wanted to film these two like gang members, so I had no choice but to do it myself, because I was trying to get it done. And I actually tried really hard, because I didn't want people to know it was me. And from what it sounds like, people didn't really notice, and if they did, they didn't care. I guess that's a good thing. But I look back and I went, yeah, I still wish to this day I found, authentic voice actors. But I mean, they have such minor roles, but... and I don't want to ask Ed, because he was already voicing Father Claw and stuff, and I was worried we were going to run out of voices, so I was like, I'll just have to do this myself. I guess it turned out okay. I guess.
I think it did. I definitely didn't even notice, and I've known your voicing for years now.
Okay, well, I did something right. I improvised one thing on the spot that I guess didn't bite me in the ass. This whole fight scene here, so by the time I got to this, it was, because I pre-planned this, so I said, okay, I don't want to have to like film them this fight scene, because by then I didn't quite figure it out yet, where if someone is shooting at my character, how do I make them keep shooting at me, but how do I prevent them from actually killing me? Because I know what you have to do is... you have to make them pissed off at you and shoot at you. Because I didn't know at the time how to properly register the recording of them shooting in the right direction at a specific character. And again, what you have to do is, in order for another character to be mad at you, you have to like bump into them or whatever. But even doing that, they don't shoot at you, they just try to punch you. And so... I wanted them to like actually shoot at Alex, but I didn't know how to do that by having them like directly shoot at his body as he's moving around the house. And so I figured out a way around it, which is you sort of get the idea of what's happening, because you get this outward shot, you hear the gunshots, you hear the guys yelling, and you just hear like, Alex punching things, and then you briefly get it, like it's sort of intercut throughout this scene. And so I think I sort of imply what's happening without showing it, and that's how I got away with it. So, because I didn't quite knew how these systems work just yet, but I was getting there. And I don't know, I like the idea of you less is more sometimes. You can show and still get the gist of what's happening without directly seeing it. So, and then to end things off with this scene was, I'm glad I got to use it. So this is actually a mod. So there's a mission in the single player campaign where Trevor goes to this place and he blows up the whole meth lab and stuff, and it's actually in a cutscene. But Rockstar had to create that building model with it on fire and stuff. There's actually a mod that you can use where you can actually spawn in the building on fire and it's like collapsing and stuff. And I'm so glad I got to put it in, because it looks great. Symbolizes Alex starting to go on the wrong path here, buddy. Calm down. This fight scene, though, at the Grove Street in the game was kind of a pain to film, because these weren't characters that I was controlling. These were just NPCs in the game. I'm sure if any of y'all have played GTA, you know if you go here and if you just start shooting somewhere, all of these gang members start shooting back at you. So I couldn't control what they were doing. They were just kind of doing their own thing. So, but the way I cut it together, I guess it worked. Why not? But yeah, after this, he oozes his memory. But can anyone guess where a certain shot comes from in this particular scene right here? Can anyone guess where I got this shot from?
No.
And you're gonna laugh when I tell y'all.
I have no clue.
I got this from Jimmy Neutron. Brain Blast!
Huh.
Yep. I just changed the coloring a bit, but yeah. This shot I got from a Jimmy Neutron clip where he's getting like that brain blast thing that he does.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun little fact.
That's cool.
I like how yeah, again we give Catherine more to do. She's kind of like the unofficial like scout of the group, isn't she?
Yeah. She's
Fighting
evolved
things
into that
and-
role for sure. Yeah.
And then this whole idea of like the snowfall, I guess it came from like ash falling after the nuclear bombs were launched in the previous episode, but I also just figured, hey, it looks cool. I didn't want them to just fight in like broad daylight, you know what I mean? But I also didn't know how I'd be able to film it if it was all like in a heavy rainfall. Believe it or not, I could have actually turned up the blizzard stuff in the game, but then you would not be able to see what's going on at all. So just a light snowfall. So
I always assumed you were trying to imply like nuclear winter or something, or ash. So
yeah. I think that was the idea of it.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
But I do like this whole Marcus returns and stuff. We give Marcus more to do. And then this whole fight scene when they arrive to the end of it, I like a lot. It's one of my favorite fight scenes. And so how I was able to make it with like Xander fighting the serum users was before I even started filming the episode, I wanted to see how I could do it in the game. Like obviously I want like right there, I want Xander to be able to punch someone and they go flying. Well, how do I do that? Because there's not really a way logistically to do it in the game itself. Even if you turn the damage multiplier all the way up, they don't fly away like I wanted them to. Like you watch a superhero movie where a super strong character like hits someone and they go flying. You can't really do that in the game. However, after playing with the game's mods that I was, fiddling around with, there's this specific mod called the Gravity Gun, where what you can do is with it's like I think it's the AP pistol in the game, and what you have to do is you have to aim it at a character, and then when you shoot it, they go launching. Because like you can turn on the this launch feature where you can pick them up, shoot it, and then they go flying. And you can actually turn up the intensity of it. I think I went way too far a couple times because I was like, oh, let's turn up the launch percentage to 200%, and then we go flying over the mountain. I'm like, oh gosh, way too far. No. That's how I was able to do it. And then after figuring out, okay, so here's how I can launch someone. How do I shoot it? Well, what I do was every time someone gets punched and they go flying, I would have to put the character that's doing the punching in the green screen. Just throw in like an animation of them just doing the punch move them right up to that character, and as soon as they go launching, make sure that the punch shows it's making contact with them right as they go launching. That's how I got them done. That's why I like the fight scenes so much, because I was quite happy with how it turned out. You know, characters getting yeeted around all over the place. And I was quite happy. But that, again, with that mod, it's finicky like everything else. Sometimes when I would launch them, it wouldn't launch properly. Sometimes I would just shoot them in the head and they die instantly. So sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But when it worked, I'm really glad that I got it to turn out the way that it did. And it kind of this whole fight
a lot of character progression during this fight as well. It was the first time that Alex's true strength was hinted at and such.
Yeah,
which is very cool, because I think we were actually trying to slowly build towards the idea that Alex was the second most powerful character in the show behind Xander. Yeah, that was the point, which was kind of crazy, you know, in a sense that again, just saying like Kurt's son is that powerful, you know what I mean?
And that's Kurt awesome. Knew that, you know, he wanted him to be stronger than any enhanced before him, even himself. So I think that just goes to show Kurt's intellect and how much of a genius he was by being able to construct that. You know, like no one saw that coming, but that just goes to show again how intelligent Kurt was. So,
oh yeah.
But
there it is again. Look, the fucking rainbow parachute, dude. It ruins it every time.
So what's really annoying is I could change the color of the parachute in the game. However, when you go back into the Rockstar editor to change the shot, sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. It's one of those. Yeah. What I also like about this scene is the modded AC-130 I put in. I remember I showed you some footage of this, Scourge, and you were like hyped.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is because what's cool about the AC-130 mod that you can spawn in is there's like different gun types, just like the ones in like that Modern Warfare mission. You know, there's like the 15mm, the 40mm, then the 120mm weapon type, and then you know the different gun that you have, the bigger the explosion is. But of course, the challenge filming this scene when it's trying to take out the Omegas is like sometimes the Omegas would flinch when they would get hit, and sometimes they wouldn't. So through some clever camera tricks, you know, I was able to showcase like, hey, they get engulfed in like the explosion, but they keep running. So yeah, that's how I did it.
I think the thing that got me so hyped about this, the inclusion of the AC-130, was going back to Legacies episode 4. Do you remember the AC-130 in that, and how it was so rudimentarily done with basic effects and stuff, and how far we've come? Now we get to like have a proper AC-130.
Yes,
they're cool mods and shit. Yeah.
Love it. I remember when I got done editing this scene, I was like, yep, I like this. Yes. I like it. And I like too how at this point the army has way more involvement. Like the stakes are just getting higher and higher. So it goes to show like, no, the army isn't sitting on their hands and letting this play out. Like, we imply that they're busy taking care of like infection breakouts throughout the world, but you know, of course, when push comes to shove and the characters need help from the army, they actually do show up and start helping them. You know, I think it's realistic. The army would show up to help. So, but then the whole thing with like him controlling the AC-130 and it crashing down, that was inspired by Infinity War when Thanos grabs the moon and throws it down. But Scourge, I remember telling you all about, wouldn't it be cool if Xander does the same thing? And you're like, Josh, stop. That's ridiculous. He's
Yeah,
not going
dude,
to grab the moon and throw it down.
I think I genuinely did have pushback on the Xander telekinesis idea, because I remember that was all you, but
Yeah.
you kind of brought me around to it just by saying, like, dude, honestly, mind control is ridiculous when you think about it. You might as well just go all the way. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Screw it. Like,
hmm
let's just do it.
And then when I put in the script, like he throws the planes down at them, and then when I told you like later on he would literally throw meteors at the characters, I think that got you into. You're like, okay, I'm hooked. That sounds dope.
It is dope. Yeah.
But then I was like, Scourge, what if he grabs a chunk of the moon like Thanos did in Infinity War and throws it at Carter? Like, Josh,
Josh, you're getting ahead of yourself.
stop. I was like, okay, how about a mountain? Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, a mountain's fine.
Like, he's powerful, but I think like if you fuck around with the moon, that messes up the Earth's tides, and it's gonna cause a whole cataclysmic event on the planet. Well, don't do that, please.
Yeah.
So this actually, I just remember how I got this to work. Before this episode, I didn't know you could spawn in objects and literally attach them to other objects. So what I did was, of course, I was controlling the chopper here, but with this shipping crate, I realized that menu has this thing where you can stick an object you spawn in to something else. And so right before it attaches to the chopper, it cuts, and then boom, it's attached, and I put in like a metallic sound effect. I'm so happy I found that, because I did something similar with Gordon's jetpack, where I attached like a rocket to his jetpack, which we'll get to, and that's ultimately how the osmosis device came to be as well. So I was really happy I was able to. And keep in mind, by this point, we still had no idea what it was going to look like. Still had no clue. We didn't know until I started to just wing it and building it. So
Yeah, it's sort of funny how the plot device that we had at the very beginning also was the thing that had no development in a way. Like,
yeah, until you see it in its full entirety at the very end. But yeah, I'm really glad with how this whole thing came out, and then just having Carter like let loose and stuff, and you showed me how this effect works with his eyes and stuff. So letting him just cut loose, and even though he was able to take out the Omegas, which was important to me to showcase how strong he is, still can't quite take out Xander. So even that wasn't enough. But then, one of my favorite moments when Alex gets all ragey. So this whole thing right here where he gets pissed off and actually, holds his own against Xander very briefly. This was inspired by, I think I told you, when Beerus slaps Bulma, and then Vegeta goes apeshit and he attacks Beerus, and Beerus actually gets hurt briefly. I like that part a lot, and so I was like, let's do something like that.
One of my favorite lines from you is in this part where Alex kind of delivers those hits, and you, for the first time, you hear Xander kind of go like, "What the hell was that?"
What the hell was that?
Yeah,
it's so good
because he's
my
just so
one regret
shocked
in that scene. Yeah, the one regret I have of that scene is that when Xander gets punched, it sounds like he's sliding, like he's just slipped on something and is about to fall over.
Yeah.
In the re-recorded lines that I put on my channel, I actually threw myself halfway across the room to give the impression that he is being thrown by that punch.
I didn't really mind that delivery initially, though, because it sort of sounded like you could tell like it caught him off guard, but he wasn't in like agony from it.
Yeah,
like he was just like, what the, like a slight,
he wasn't in pain.
Shit.
He was just like, whoa, what the? How did you do that?
What the hell?
Yeah.
Wait, you just managed to push me back. How the hell did you do that?
That's never happened before.
He's so intrigued by everything. That's the funny part with Xander throughout the show, is whenever anyone gets the upper hand on him, like, yes, he'll get pissed off, but a lot of the times he's just kind of like, that was awesome. He's like, wow, not bad,
I think because when you're so absurdly powerful, that even someone that has like a mild, it's kind of like from One Punch Man. Like whenever he gets a mild challenge, it excites him because he's so bored, because he's bored from being too strong. And so when the opportunity presents itself, he's like, "Oh, this is so cool!" It's like a Saiyan from DBZ.
This is some awesome shit that I can do.
Yeah, you know, or like a lot of characters in DBZ, when like a character is finally powerful enough to fight them, they're like, "Yo, let's go! I'm actually getting hurt. This is kind of cool." It's like that warrior, you know, instinct that they have. So Scourge. I remember when we talked about. I think we knew that Marcus was going to die in this show. But I think the initial idea was that he was gonna die off screen, and like a character would just say, "Yeah, Marcus, he died. Like someone shot him down, and while he was flying on a plane, he died." I don't know why, but as the show went on, I hated that idea. I wanted him to go out in a much more badass way, and so we came up with the idea of what if he wears a Pocassium suit or a Peacemaker suit and goes out that way, because they always talked about how dangerous the Peacemaker suit is, and if it's unstable, it'll literally explode. And I was like, I want to show that, you know, to emphasize how dangerous it is. And I wanted him to go out in a much more badass way instead of, yeah, he died off screen. I'm so glad we went with that, because I don't know about you guys, I cannot stand off-screen deaths. I hate them. Hate them. God. I'm really glad we went with this approach. And like, this is also like, you know, a closing moment between Marcus and Alex. Like, this is the last time they ever talked to each other, and then Marcus is like, yeah, you're basically the son I never had. So, and it's kind of like really sweet how Marcus is doing this knowing he's probably going to die, but he knows Alex is the best chance that they have. So, but after this whole, you know, thing with Alex in this episode being, I guess you could argue he's like the central main point in this episode, was I wanted him to feel like so down and just defeated that I kind of wanted him to like step in the background for the next episode, because in episode 9, when we introduce, or not introduce, but we bring Justin and Manny back, I wanted them to be the highlight. You know what I mean? So I wanted him to step back, kind of like what I did with James and Maya. Sometimes you have to step back the other characters that you built up so much, and then bring them back later on after you build up the other characters a bit more. So
yeah, not to mention the Manny Justin return is something I, and I'm sure many others, had been waiting for since Legacies. Yes. We were like, where the hell is Manny and Justin, you know?
Yep. So, people have been waiting the entire season. Where the fuck are they? But it was important to me that we have to develop these other plot lines, get them resolved. We have to build up the other characters so that when Justin and Manny do show up, it's way more satisfying. So, and that's what I like about how this episode ends. So with Jake going to finally, and now I'm sure Joao was happy to voice Steven again, because he's been absent for a few episodes. So I'm sure he was happy to. My problem though with this scene in particular, it's so I wish I sort of explained this more. When Jake goes to this carrier of his battleship, which I'm happy I was able to put mod in the game, this is a whole thing. My only problem with it though is Jake is sort of like wandering around, like aiming his gun at these guys, because by this point they realize the depths of what Xander can do, and they don't know if they're being tricked or not. You know, he genuinely doesn't know, because Xander can mind control people, so he doesn't know if like these soldiers are being mind controlled or whatever. He has no idea. But the whole time as he's, you know, walking around with his gun out, the other guys don't even seem to care.
Yeah, you can. I think it's because it was the way of telling the viewer that the people here know what's going on. They see Jake and they're like, there he is. Like they know he's supposed to be here, you know.
I guess Marcus told them, you know, that he was going to be here, and just let him do his thing. Let him get here. Let him get to me.
Yeah. But I speaking of Joao voicing Steven again, getting to reprise as Steven, I remember when I came to him saying like we needed these lines. He said, "Is this for a flashback?" And I was like, "No, And he was like, but he's dead, right? And I was like, no. And he was like, what? He was dead because he hadn't voiced him in a while. So
Yeah. And that's the whole. I think that's good because that implies that everyone else thought Steven was dead after this point. And then and then we reveal that in this scene, like Xander is so sadistic that he wanted Steven to live with the trauma and take his own life because he couldn't cope with it anymore. Like that's pretty fucked up. That to me is worse than him just killing him on the spot. I think.
Yeah, there's some
Like,
dark
oh
stuff.
yeah.
And I'm just glad Steven grew overall as a character, because I remember when he was introduced in ZAL, I never ever would have imagined that he would have going to evolve into like a mainstay character. I never would have thought that. So
yeah, he was always like kind of like the background guy, like giving missions to other people, and like we also talked very, very briefly in like series 2, he was the one that was like, okay, I want you guys to go back to New York, figure out why there's an infection again, and if you figure it out, we'll absolve you of all the crimes you've committed. Like he was the one that gave them that mission, and he's always been he's always been like the voice of reason kind of guy. Like even when President Vance was not making the right decisions, Steven was always on their side. Like when Catherine wanted to find Alex and she asked the president if he has any leads, he's like, I'm not telling you, like, you're a journalist. You have no place in this. And then Steven's like, you know what? I'll give you a shot. Like, he's the very, like, voice of reason guy throughout the show. And he's also, like, a very wise character as well that people look up to. So, I think Xander really underestimated Steven's ability to, it was hard for him, and it probably always will be, but to overcome that trauma of what Xander did to him, to Vance. I think that added a lot of depth to him, not just like this regular military guy, but like the shit that he went through. But he has to power through it. He just has to. I think Xander wasn't expecting that. I think Xander, ultimately what led to his downfall was he expects the worst in people. I don't think he ever planned for Jake and Carter to make amends, for example. He was hoping they would kill each other, right? So I think he always thinks like of the worst in people. Like the idea of people coming together despite their differences is something that he just couldn't comprehend. So I think that was one of his biggest things.
Go ahead, Ed. Sorry.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I picked up on when I was reading the various scripts. It was like, oh, this is a guy who fatalizes everything, and I'd better have that come across in my performance.
Yeah, definitely, and I think you did very successfully. And I was going to say, Josh, that with what you said about having Xander's plan was for Jake and Carter to kill each other. Would this be a good time, because we are moving towards episode 9-ish here? Should we talk about some of the planned stuff that never happened?
Yes. So I like how this ends. Steven's like, because this is almost like the first time in the entire show we hear the name Manny, and it was so satisfying to put that in. So that goes to show, yep, the OGs are coming back. So, episode 9, but before we talk about this episode, because I am excited to, there's a lot that happens in it. It's the longest episode, if you don't include episode 10 being in 3 parts. Originally, we had vastly different plans for where the story was going, to the point where it was like supernatural shit.
Yes,
we originally had a completely different idea where this was going. The whole idea behind it was I was inspired by the episode in Avatar: The Last Airbender when Aang and Zuko go to find the origins of the firebenders, the dragons and stuff, and they have to do like these tests and these trials and stuff. And I thought that'd be a great way to make Jake and Carter bond way more. But Scourge, I think you remember maybe more than I do, like their like this journey, this supernatural journey they were going to have that we'd end up scrapping.
Yeah, the most of what I remember involved, we were going to have Jake and Carter at some point would step into some sort of mist, and they would end up in a sort of ether, some realm that almost looked like an old temple that was going to be full of like flowers. And this was around the same time, I think, that I'd wrote those serum files, the Procasium serum guide, and we'd introduced the idea of like the flower being the origin of the virus and such, of the poison. So I think we were going to say that that was the flowers or something, and the temple was the temple mentioned in the story. And Jake and Carter were going to go on this like strange, like spiritual journey, and they were going to meet. Do you remember? They were going to meet Jeff and Evan.
Yeah, the cowboy dudes from Series 3.
Yeah, it was going to be freaking Jeff and Evan, but like an immortal version of them or something. Like they were the first serum users, and they like some essence of them is still alive, and they were going to teach something to Jake and Carter or something like that. It leaned heavily into supernatural stuff, to the point that I think you and me just agreed that not only is this not feasible in game with any mods, but also it's just kind of ridiculous at this point. We were like, we shouldn't do this. So
the concept was a bit out there. Well, I initially loved the idea of like Jake and Carter going on this spiritual journey, and then Carter having to face his trauma head on. I was like, he's kind of already doing that, right? With that mutated version that he has, and the Keone shit, and the shit that Frederick Gold did to him and everything. And then Jake is also kind of doing with that already too. But the big thing, I think the biggest reason why we scrapped it is we agreed that the show overall, for despite, you know, some sci-fi elements here and there, it's been very grounded, right? Like stuff seems not too far out there. Like the biggest way we go beyond that is with like Xander's telepathic abilities, but in some way, because his power is almost so otherworldly that you kind of just accept it, because we also stated that the longer he lives, the stronger he gets, right? And so for the most part, you just kind of accept what's happening. But with that concept, with there being like, you know, these ghosts that they meet and stuff, it opens up this huge can of worms. Why didn't they show up before? Why now? What else does this imply? How is this going to connect to that? And then they would all be resolved in like one episode, and they would just go back to doing their normal fight against Xander again. It seemed like just such a pivot away from the current narrative, you know, that by the time we got to it, I was like, well, I still have to have an episode where Manny and Justin come back, and we also have to have the finale. So is this going to be like 12 episodes or something? It just, we even like, I think Scourge, you wrote like this entire script for it because you love the idea so much. But then as we got closer to it, we were just like, I don't know, man.
I wrote some sort of work in progress out, but we just gave up on the idea. And it's funny too, you said about the idea of there being maybe like 12 episodes and stuff, because I think one of the other concepts we had early on was that there was going to be alternate endings. Do you remember that?
We had that idea floating around before we even filmed Revelations.
Yeah.
Because
there were going to be endings where like Jake kills Carter or Carter kills Jake or something. It was insane.
And then like there's like alternate endings where the, you know, either one where Carter kills Jake or vice versa, Xander wins, and like we just see the world get taken over essentially.
Yeah.
And then there's the true ending where they put aside their differences and work together. I think we have another idea during the endings where Carter, like, you know, after dealing with everything, he still like wants to betray the group and take on Xander himself, but then Jake like convinces him to not do that. But then we were like, that's stupid, that's dumb.
I think it was a combo of things. It seemed unnecessary, it was a bit dumb.
Way more work.
It was kind of grim too, some of the alternate endings. It was just like too grim. So
I think I told you, because I think we were still planning on doing it pretty late on in filming the show, but I think by the time I either finished episode 8 or 9, where I said, hey Scourge, I really don't want to do the alternate endings. You're like totally on board with that, Josh.
Yeah, we're like, fuck it.
Because each episode by this point was getting so hard to make. Episode 9, so many challenges with it, just because of how many more characters I introduced and stuff, and all the stuff that was going to be happening in it. But like, yeah, I wanted an entire episode devoted to bringing back Manny and Justin, getting the group together and everything. And I'm really glad how it turned out. But for this, I really shot myself in the foot because I gave the audience a release date for episode 9. I should not have done that because when I did that, I still had so much more work to do, and there was only like a month out from the release date, and I was up night after night after night, getting little to no sleep, spending weekend after weekend, having to cancel plans of friends, family even, to get this done. And I would spend hours and hours every day working on this. And I think I messaged you, Scourge. I was like, Scourge, oh my lord, this is such a pain. I just need like someone to vent to because I figured you of all people understand the challenges, the struggle, the stress putting this together. Because like, I wish I could really go in depth a lot more with you guys watching how much effort went into making, especially these last few episodes. Because like, they had to be, you know, you have to film them, you have to check the game, make sure mods are possible, check the one by one, make sure mods are possible, okay, write the script, do revisions, make sure it's as clean as possible, make sure there's no plot holes or anything like that. Then, of course, the biggest challenge, filming the fucking thing, which I think filming the episode itself was the biggest challenge of all of them. Editing is feasible. It is. It takes a while, but it's not as hard as actually filming, because a number of things can go wrong, and you're constantly fighting the mods, fighting the game just to work with you, and things would go wrong so often. Like every single fight scene, you know, I would always have challenges. Characters didn't do the right thing. They would run off a cliff. They would punch the wrong person, you know. And then there's the whole, after I get all the filming done, I have to go back each individual clip, and there'd be hundreds of clips, sometimes a couple thousand of them, or one by one. I'll have to change the camera shots. I have to make sure I get footage of the right character when they say a certain line. And then once I have all the cinematic shots put together in the Rockstar editor, then I had to export that footage onto my computer. But the problem with that is because it's so mod heavy and stuff, the game would crash constantly. I have to boot up the game again, pick up where I left off. Oh, it crashes, pick up where I left off again. And then when I have all the footage on my computer, then I get to start editing it. Oh man, dude. So much work. You guys have no idea. So much work.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I don't know how I got the wait time between episodes 6 and 7 so close together. I think I said this just because it was the least challenging one, because a lot of it was just like in interiors and stuff. But as I expanded the scope and as I added more characters to it, good Lord Almighty.
Yeah, I think around episode 6 and 7, like you said, in episode 6, I was like more involved with writing with you, so there was like big portions of 6 that I'd wrote that made it easier for you to just kind of drop those in and then allowed you to write episode 7 at the same time. So you already had everything kind of going. But in these episodes, it was kind of all you. I was very busy at the time, and you were kind of taking the reins on everything. So,
visual effects, the filming itself, the writing, everything. Because episodes 8 and 9, I believe that was 100% me.
Yeah.
And I knew writing the episode, I was like, oh lord, when I get to this scene, it's going to be such a challenge. It's going to be such a challenge. Fuck.
You tested yourself and you persevered.
Yeah.
You became stronger in the end.
Yeah.
I do love the Manny comeback here. Actually, before I get to that, people were telling me this whole Alex and Catherine scene, when they're sort of having like this emotional back and forth. Some people were telling me this was one of their favorite scenes in the episode, because some people were a bit iffy about the new cast, but I think this scene put all their concerns at ease with how like talented, you know, Ruthie Wren is as Catherine and Dill is as Alex. You know, just getting them time to decompress the events that have transpired, and having a bit more backstory for Catherine too. because I completely wrote up this backstory I just pulled out of my ass for her, where she's a successful journalist, but the reason why is because her dad was, and then some shit happened with her dad where she always wanted to figure out what actually happened to him, because why would he take his own life? It makes no sense. But it's because loan sharks killed him. They rigged his car, and then that killed him. I guess, I don't know. I'm a morbid guy. I love giving characters tragic backstories. Everyone is sad and depressed.
You excel at it.
Like Catherine's mom, terminally ill. Her dad, killed by loan sharks. So sad. I don't know where I came up with that idea. I think I want to give her character more depth, and I think at the time the best way to do that was give her trauma like everybody else, to show that she has nice cars, she's a successful journalist, but she dealt with a lot of crap too. That has so much more to her, and then I think it's very, very, very vague in this, but I was inspired by a scene in the film The Bourne Ultimatum, when Jason Bourne's talking to another female character. It's very, very vague, where it was maybe implied that they kind of had a thing way back before he lost his memory. With Alex and Catherine, I sort of played on that a little bit as well, where it's extremely vaguely implied that Catherine has feelings for him, but she doesn't outright say it. You know what I mean? Because she's scared to. She doesn't know where it's going to lead. But I think it's been building up to that. Where Alex is just like, why are you doing this all for me? Like, why are you here? What do you see in me? And then she just says, it was difficult for me with you. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you really could never tell, could you? It's like, tell what? And then she just sort of drops it. To me, growing up with a mom and sis, I think that's pretty realistic when a woman talks about a person that they like. They will never outright admit it unless the guy admits it first.
Here's the thing.
In my experience.
I'm an only child. I'm an only child. Never grew up with a sister. Had a lot of female cousins. But yes, that is definitely something that a woman who's interested in you would do. Just keep dropping hints, and then if you're not picking them up, if you're just being the regular boneheaded guy and it's just going way over your head, she's just going to drop it eventually.
Yeah.
And
Alex wouldn't understand. He never would have picked up on it like full on anyway. And I really did like the relationship we developed for them. So
there's a line he says that solidifies his character so much, which was, "I don't know what love is." He's never had a family. The closest he got was Father Clyde, but it'd be a kind of a stretch to say he loved him, right? But he's never had a family. He's never had parents. He never had siblings, kids, nothing. He has nothing. He has no idea what that emotion even is. So even if Catherine drops these heavy hints, he has no idea what the fuck she's doing. It's so sad.
It's funny if you think about it. The closest I'm actually this is so stupid to say, but it's actually accurate. The closest surviving family that Alex has that isn't even family is the Omegas. The Omegas are technically his brothers.
Yeah, you can argue that.
Like that's a family.
Yeah.
And so that means every time Alex fights one, it's sibling rivalry.
Sibling rivalry, baby.
There you go. I think him having like these, conflicts between being good and bad makes him so complex and so interesting, because before it was always implied that a serum user, out of instinct, just going to do bad things. But Alex is like a totally different kind of one, so I think it makes him way more fascinating as a character. But beyond that, he don't do much in this, because we have put the spotlight with Manny and Justin. The scenes here of Jake and Carter making amends. Sometimes you have to put other characters in the background to develop these more. I do like this scene where it's sort of implied that Carter feels constantly physical pain, where he actually welcomes death if the opportunity arises. Good lord, that's so sad.
I think what Carter just
Hmm.
yearns for is meaningful death.
Yeah.
Like he feels like he has like no purpose, so he's just he wants to go out in a way that matters.
Yeah.
You know?
That just brings whole new meaning to the one line that I deliver later on in the episode. You don't fear death, you welcome it.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I was going for with Carter's character, is like he hates his life, he hates himself, he even hates what he's turned into, and he feels like he's accomplished nothing, and he can't do anything about it. You know, like little things like, and then all of a sudden Xander, who's this huge obstacle, and then it turns out he totally just reversed everything Carter was working on with the device. Xander went as far as to say, like, I completely reprogrammed the device so that Planiverse you had, it's never going to be possible ever again. You spent the last decade wasting your time. That is such a punch in the fucking gut to him. He's like, I just cannot do anything right, you know? That's why he's like, you know what? If Death wants me, have me. So sad. But, like, I'm really glad he gets his sense of purpose by starting to, you know, make amends with Jake, spending more time with James. I think that slowly but surely starting to realize, like, despite everything I go through, I need to keep persevering because I need to do it for them. Because he's not going to say it out loud. He can't bring himself to, but he cares about them. He does. He's never going to say he does, but he does.
Yeah, he's just too closed off of a guy.
Yeah. We'll get some more of that later on, as that's more heavily implied. But yeah, the Manny introduction. Boy, oh boy, was I happy to put this back in. And I wanted him to come back at a pivotal moment where it seemed like the characters were fucked. They're about to die. And then Manny shows up to save him. And I've always wanted that. And then not only that, but he comes back in a way using his fire abilities. Because, you know, every serum user has to have their own unique little attribute to them. So when he comes back, he saves the day. And then I wanted, you know, a cool looking explosion behind him. Cool guys don't look at explosions. I remember there's a line that you wanted me to add so badly, Scourge, which is when Manny and Carter reunited, he goes, "Hey there, Carter, you're looking alive."
That was again, like, these were lines that we had talked about for years, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So happy to put him back in. And it was important to do his character justice, you know, bring him back in a way that's truly satisfying. And it's such a satisfying feeling seeing them interact, you know, hug, handshake, all these things, and him fighting with them again and stuff. So it's such a good feeling. It really is. And then this chase scene here was actually a pain, as you can imagine, because what I had to do with each of these cars was, again, I had to record them driving one by one. Sometimes they would veer off the cliff, veer off the road. Sometimes they wouldn't. And it's funny looking back at this scene, this exact same path they were on, you know, going on this highway through this tunnel, the exact same path they went on in episode 1 when Carter, Alex, and Xander went inside that truck. The same path that Jake and James run on his bike.
Nice.
It's the go-to for me with car chases, I guess. But the biggest challenge, though, was, like, of course, with these different vehicle types. Some of them are faster than others. And as I was filming this scene, I figured out you can actually control the top speed of each car. And so by utilizing that, I was able to, you know, get each car to go at the same speed. And I figured that out as I went along, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. My biggest gripe, though, is when the Frantics show up, I fucking hate how they look. I hate how they look in this episode, like with like the effects. I try to put like this motion blur in; they just kind of appear, but just these very quick shots, Vegas took forever to render these, and they don't even look that good in my opinion. And so, I think after this episode, I just sort of scrapped that out. So
I mean, I think it looks fine, but yeah,
could be better.
But Vegas definitely doesn't handle motion blur that well. It could be better. I think we're always going to think that, though, aren't we? But overall, though, I think there was a lot of hype in this episode. With I really loved getting to see Manny and Carter working together, though. Like
Yeah.
two members of the OG cast who are both now enhanced, just working together and shit, like kicking ass. It was so satisfying.
Oh yeah, getting Manny's character to stay on top of the truck, that was fun. Because
Yeah,
there's no
dude.
extra seat for him. There's the 2 seats, and then there's the gunner, and those are all taken. So now what? Well, Manny just has to stand there. There's a fun little thing I want to show y'all. So right here, where I wanted to give Carter something to do, and then to showcase Manny's abilities a bit more, and have him be the one to like get the final blow in the last part of the action scene. There's this cool thing that happens where he steps off the truck. Watch this. Boom. Now, as you're watching it, you don't think for a second going, oh, that's a glitch. No, you think, yeah, he's a serum user. He's so, like, weighty that him stepping off of it's going to make almost a truck flip over. That was purely accidental.
That's an amazing
Oh,
accident.
wow.
Purely
Wow.
accidental. I loved it so much that I added the sound effect for it as he's stepping off of it. But like, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because
It
they're
does.
so weighty. Every time they hit the ground, it's like an earthquake. The earth shatters. But so that way, when it happens, you don't question it for a second. You go, "Yep, he's enhanced, all right." No, this was an accident. This was a glitch.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy little accidents.
hmm It's like as I was filming the game, sometimes, not always, but sometimes the game is like, all right, Josh, I'll give you a little treat to make the episode look just a little bit better, make it look, elevated just a little bit more, and I love that, And speaking of like weightiness, I love the idea of like this giant vehicle slamming into a serum user, and then they just don't move. It's like they're hitting into a wall. So yeah, how I filmed this was I had this truck in the green screen room, the giant green screen room, and I had spawned in this wall, and I had to get it as thin as possible so that you wouldn't see it. I would have to crop the wall out just before the truck would hit it, and so I just simply filmed it driving it into a straight wall sideways. I masked out the thin wall that I drove into, and then I put Manny there instead. And then I added that smoke effect. So, I don't think I ever talked about that, but I'm happy how it came out.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
it's
then-
impressive.
The whole thing with the characters trying to figure out, like, I love this whole thing, and them talking, and just this whole scene here, and then them asking like, Manny, what have you been up to? Like, why didn't you help us sooner? I love how he just keeps changing the subject. He's like, let's not talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Because he's like, if I tell them Manny's my kid, I think he'd be worried they would all hate him and resent him. He probably hates himself for just letting these events happen because he can't bring himself to fight his own son. That's why he's been away all this time. But then, I did like this part where Xander is like, hey, you know what? Bring that part back to me, or I'm gonna do some real bad shit to you. And it's like so morbid where he literally shows Meryl like shooting herself. And that fucks Carter's head up, Or actually, no, that happens later on. The first time is when he shows Justin appear, like, hey, you better bring it back to me, or this is what's gonna happen to Justin. Because Carter won't admit it, but he kind of secretly cares about Justin, and this implies like a sense of urgency. We have to go there and do it. We have to. We just have to.
Yeah.
But Manny, I think, is the one that ultimately convinces everyone in this scene when they're all like down in the dumps, like, we I don't know if we can help Justin out because he's just a guy. We have the part. We have the upper hand now. We have leverage. He doesn't, and we can't sacrifice everything for Justin. And Manny's like, Are you the same friends I know? Of course we do. We don't leave our friends behind. So,
Yeah.
And even though Manny and Justin have that little, love-hate relationship, they still care about each other. They just won't admit it.
Yeah, there's huge care between the original group, and it's especially important that Manny's the one who says this because it reminds me of when Manny was a zombie, and Jake was the one who was like, "We are not going to kill him. We're going to save him."
Yeah.
Jake was the one who would give pushback, and it sort of feels like it's come full circle in a way, with Manny being the one saying like, "Of course we're going to try and help him."
Yeah. We're not going to leave a close friend of ours just behind to die. It's just not an option.
Mm.
And a little fun fact about this whole island scene here from here on out is when I wrote the script, I thought they were just going to fight in a random location in the base map. But literally, as I was writing the script, Rockstar came out with that Cayo Perico update where you could go to this island. And then, sure enough, very shortly after, a mod came out where you could actually go to this location. I'm like, yes, I'm using it. I don't care. Fuck it. Fuck it. Because this island, you know, like, we've seen so many locations in the base map, but we've never been here before. And I'm so glad I got to film it here. Because I think it expands the world so much more, fleshes it out so much more. It feels so much bigger in scope, you know?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Scourge, I think you came up with the idea of Justin secretly being the one that's been helping Xander with his plans, and kind of him like being Xander's like puppeteer.
Yeah. I think, I don't know where the idea came from. I just thought it would be kind of dark and stuff if one of the original cast was being puppeteered by Xander.
Well, you also wanted to tie it into, like, remember in episode 1 when with that phone call?
Yeah.
Where Charlene was like, "Hey, I just got a call from Justin. He's trying to meet you." I think you asked me, why is he trying to do that? And I was like, I haven't figured that out yet.
I was like, but wait.
Leave it to me.
It was very cool. It was neat to... I think one of the cutting room floor ideas that never ended up happening in this episode was... We implied that it was Gordon that made a sort of like sedative that would like bring Justin out of Xander's control. One of the cutting room floor ideas that wasn't used was we were going to have Justin get really, really stoned or high or something. Do you remember this? We were going to imply that like Justin gets injected with some really concentrated like weed or something, you know, snaps him out. Yeah.
But
super concentrated CBD oil.
Yeah. But I think I cut that out because I was like, that makes no sense. Because what if there was like some pothead out there who got really infected, but he just didn't because he's so stoned? Like, that's kind of stupid. Yeah. So, again, giving Gordon way more to do. You know, he creates that sedative. It makes so much sense because as he try to tie in all these plot lines together, it shows that you know, when Alex was having that seizure at the end of episode 7, when Gordon used that on Alex, I was like, well, what if he tones down that quite a bit and uses it on like just a regular person? You know, because it would make so much. It does make a lot of sense that Gordon would have a sedative like that on hand because he wants to like do, you know, tests and experiments on these serum users to figure out their weaknesses and stuff. But he has to like sedate them to experiment on them and stuff. And I think it makes so much sense that he would have something like that on hand. And then when push comes to shove, if you need to use it on a regular person, you can just, you know, dial back the intensity of it. I think it makes perfect logical sense. So
yeah.
But then I also told Scourge, like, what if we also apply that it's temporary? It's only good for like a day or so, and then he reverts back to being under Xander's control. And I think you really like that idea. So
yeah, because we didn't want like a permanent get out of jail free card for Xander's powers, but we needed something just temporarily so we could have the 4 of them together again fighting, right? Which was I think was the main goal. So
it was. Yeah, I didn't want the serum to be like, you know, hey, this magical thing that they can do now, where characters, if they get mind control, they're good. I'm like, no. Because that lowers the stakes significantly. It makes Xander look pathetic. So I was like, no, it's temporary. I think that was a really smart idea. And it played up to, you know, a fun thing that happens in the finale. So, yeah, I do love this whole bit where, you know, all the characters get pinned down and the car's exhausted because he used too much of his power. And then they're all about to die, but then, you know, with the Justin being behind the zombie, again saying his signature line, "Not so fast, son of a bitch." Like, that's how we saved Jake in Series 1. That's how we're saving him here in ZAR. That implies, yep, he's back. I love, like, the full circle stuff, you know. And then after this fight scene, when again Carter says to Jake, like, Jake, run or shoot, he says both. That's a callback from Series 3. But I love this fight scene, and I wanted, like, I really wanted them to, like, actually win this. Because they're, for the most part in ZAR, they've been losing fights. They've been losing the battles. But I wanted to show, like, how good of a thing it is when they all work together, that they can they can be victorious, and that was important to me. Man.
This original 4, they get shit done, you know. Put them together, yeah.
So yeah, and then of course the money shot with let's see. Oh yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Cannot tell you how happy I was when I put this in the OGs.
It felt good.
And then of course the line, you know, where they Justin says, well, like the old man said, together. That's from Age of Ultron. Yeah. It's crazy to think, as I wrote this script, as, you know, this was happening, I had no idea they were going to be on this island. It just happened. It's crazy. But I guess I made it work.
Jeez,
and then,
you know, and
I love this
of player models that you were essentially rigging to move. I noticed the amount of them go up heavily in this. I saw so many zombies running and things, and I remember thinking, like, this must have taken forever. Little did I know how crazy the finale was going to be compared to this. You know, this
is nothing. This is a small group. I remember when earlier on when Carter fought those berserkers and that there was 4 of them, and that scared people. I'm like, ha 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 ha, you ain't seen nothing yet. Like, I knew even filming this episode where I wanted the scale to be significantly bigger and in the finale, but I had no idea how I was going to do it. I'll talk about that when I get to it, but that was always a vision of mine, was like literally giant armies going up against each other. How the fuck am I going to do that? But I'll talk about that later. But I do like how ultimately, you know, after they reunite and stuff, and they succeed, I think this is the first time Xander is like really pissed, isn't he?
Yes,
he's like,
and I'm
losing? The fuck y'all say?
This actually contains one of my favorite ad-libs, too. When Xander says, okay, can I have everyone's attention for just a minute, please? That was not in the script.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense, though, because he's like, hey, look what I'm about to do. Even though the zombies don't really look at him when he does that, because when I filmed this, that wasn't in the script, so I didn't film them turning to look at him, so... They didn't look, they just kind of go, eh.
Yeah. Yeah. My headcanon is that they were paying attention, but they weren't necessarily looking at him. Like, they still have, the infected still have a lot of shit to do building this thing. So, yeah, they're gonna, like, turn their heads or just listen in the background, but no, they're not going to just drop what they're doing, turn around, and look at what he's about to do.
Yeah.
I love the composition in this as well, this scene. Look at all the white, you know, and Xander. It looks incredible.
It goes to show, like, I think what I was trying to emphasize here was, like, Xander getting emotional in this scene. I wanted, like, a ragey storm, like a ragey snow blizzard. Because, like, in episode 8, the snowfall was very calm. But in this, because he's getting angry, and because you can't see it because it's off screen, I did that on purpose, because they're literally building the device, and you can hear it and stuff, you just can't see it, was like, his plan is getting closer and closer and closer, to show, like, hey, this is getting serious. I think that was the theme I was going for. Which, speaking of, like, composition and stuff, by the time I got to actually episode 9, I think I used this theme throughout the remaining, rest of the show, was there's this filter thing. I forget what the name of it is in the Rockstar editor. It's called like Divergent or Divinity. That's what it is, Divinity. It makes like the lights like pop so much more. It makes the sun rays brighter. Like it makes stuff pop. I think throughout watching the episode, like, let me try to find a good example of this, particularly with like lights and things, like how much brighter they look, or like right there, and go back. So like, see these lights right here, kind of like the flare that they have on each side. So that by the filter turn all the way up is overwhelming. It's like, oh gosh, I can't see. But I notice if we turn it down a bit, it adds just a bit more of like this flare to like these lighting effects to it. And if you you'll watch other parts really throughout the
just directed by J.J. Abrams.
Yes. Like I think there was like during the chase scene here, right here. So see like how these lights kind of have like this reflection in the bottom middle and the bottom right kind of, and I love the idea of it of how that looks because I think it makes it look more like someone has an actual video camera and they're filming this. I wanted it to less look like this is just straight footage from a video game and more like this is something like someone was there in the game with the camera like filming this.
Yeah.
And like I think it makes it look way more cinematic, making those lights and colors just pop so much more. And honestly, it makes the explosions look prettier too, with like how much brighter they are and stuff. And so this whole like very faint glare filter that I use is I stuck with it for the rest of the saga because I just love how it pops out at the lights and stuff way more. So like that little light right there, if I didn't have that filter on, it would just be like that little bright light bulb. But that glare effect, it sticks out. It goes onto the Omega's body. It goes out to the side. It looks, makes it look way more like a living, breathing world. Like someone had a camera and they were there, So that's kind of what I was going for with it. And then, James and all of them come back. I love writing Justin in this episode. Finally being able to interject some of that humor, where he starts to flirt with Maya, and then Maya's like, thanks? That was so much fun to write. I love that whole thing, too, where they reveal to the Justin that Jake and Carter actually fought, and the first thing he asks is, so who won?
Yeah, that was fun because then Jake and Carter were sort of like complimenting each other, like they didn't want to flat out say that one or the other won. I thought that was nice
because they're really trying to let the past be past. They don't want to fight again, and the fact that they have to revisit that again and they don't want to, they're like, oh crap, what do we say here? Yeah. But I love how they're just like, well, you had the upper hand. Well, no, actually, you did. You were able to do this. It was a tie. It was a tie. Yeah. I needed to put some, some humor in here because it's been really depressing. It's been really depressing. We've got to have some sprinkles of, fun little things because it should be fun to watch. Should be fun to listen to, and you don't want it to be overly depressing the entire time. So. But of course, you got to be careful with that. Don't overdo it, but don't be afraid to interject some of those things. It just makes everyone feel so much more real, Yeah, that's the bit where he gets the vision that Meryl's probably gonna die.
Meryl's in trouble again. Carter ends up snagging the part and delivering it to Xander, which was like just terrible all around.
I think you had this idea, but we didn't know where to put it, where Carter would see Meryl, but we didn't know in what context. And so I played it up as Xander knows where Meryl is, and he's going to tell Carter where she is. That way Carter has no choice but to sort of abide by Xander's demands. He has no choice, because he knows where she is. And so when Carter goes to see her, like, he can see her, but she can't see him. And I think you had this idea, Scourge, but you didn't quite know where in the story it would go.
Yeah.
But it's so sad. She remarried and stuff and whatnot, and yeah, sad all around.
I mean, I'm sure Carter's just happy that she's happy and safe, but yeah, there was an idea floating around where I think early on you and me might have had a conversation about having Carter see Meryl, but he has his mask on, so she doesn't know it's him and shit. And the idea just kept switching around. So I'm really glad that you managed to interject it right here because it's a great place for it.
It was, yeah, surprisingly, filming this scene was not that hard. I mean, all I had to do was just put Carter in a green screen, have him run for a bit, and I just had to be very careful that I would have enough space on each side to have him run, because, like, if I moved him too much to the right, his arm would be in front of the mirror, so you have to be very careful with that. I think a shot I wanted to do was have her look like inside the car out through the window, and then you'd see Carter outside the window right here, but that was too hard to mask, so I just decided that I'm just going to film it right outside the car window. So looking back, what I could have done is I could have had the car green screened and also have Carter green screen. That way I can put various layers, like put the layer of the car in front of Carter. But I think by this point, I was getting so exhausted, I just wanted to fucking finish this episode.
That's completely fair, yeah.
And I'm like, it's not that big of a deal, man. I'm just gonna do that. But trust me, for the finale, I went all out. Probably even more than I should have, but good lord. Then Catherine coming back, and I think it was important to get everyone reunited and stuff. And then with this bit here, when Jake reveals how James is immune, I think we kind of implied that, but I don't think we were ever planning on that really being a thing, because it took me a long time to figure this out, but I needed a way for James to have a more important role when he comes back, and also imply what happened to him, why did that happen, why couldn't Xander control him? And then I think I told you, Scourge, that what if James was immune, and you're like, Jonas, is that even possible? I'm like, it's gonna feel so satisfying though, right? Because the entire saga, there's been no cure. But what if secretly there is one? They just don't know until they figure it out.
I think that's what it was. That's what sold me on it, is that either you said it or I just remembered it. The whole series 1, episode 5, right? That's not possible. There is no cure. And I think when I thought that, I was like, oh, that's good. That's pretty good,
And that line came from Jake.
Yeah.
And he's the one that says, hey, I figured this out. James can't get infected. And the idea I had behind that, the context was, when Jake took that serum in Series 3, it was temporary, and then when it faded away, he still had Procasium kind of in him, but not really. His body fought against it, so that when he had an offspring, I guess the DNA was able to mutate and figure out a way to not get infected. So, there was some loophole they found in that in Procasium that even Kurt didn't predict. You could argue, and so that it would go to show that serum Jake took. We'll figure out that it's killing him, but it wasn't for nothing, because it created something good out of it. And then that also made me realize, when did you explain way more how this is going to tie into the osmosis device? Because we said throughout the entire series, why wasn't the osmosis device ever finished? It was too complicated. Why? It was too hard to make. Just too hard. Okay, but why? I get it.
Why?
It's hard to make, but why? Was the tech too advanced? I mean, that's not really an explanation. Just I need a reason. And then I think I told you, I said, what if it was DNA based? Carter figured this out. It's DNA based. And he says, the main reason it was never finished is because it requires DNA of someone that's immune to Procasium to work. And no one like that exists. That's why it was never finished. And I think that was a solid way to explain that's why it was never finished. Because Xander's using it to infect everyone. It was originally supposed to cleanse everyone. They couldn't figure that out because no one's immune to Procasium. So that's how we got around to that. My only little nitpick with this whole scene here is when Jake tells Carter to just inject James with that vial. But like I said before, there's no animation or object in the game that looks like a vial, and there's no way, because you can stick an object to another object, like that shipping crate to the helicopter, but you can't stick an object to a character. Like, for example, even if there was a vial that I could use to stab James with, that doesn't exist in the game, and plus, you can't stick objects to people. And so
Yeah.
I just found this animation where he just does that. Because there was no other way for me to film it. But I think you get the general gist
You
of
get
it.
you get the point, dude. Honestly, it's better than using a knife and saying that you spread the fucking cure on the knife, like in series 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's no other way to film it. That's always been a challenge.
It's fine.
Sometimes you just gotta deal with the cards that you have. Sometimes. And then-
Absolutely.
This whole party scene is one of my favorite scenes in the entire show.
Yeah,
I remember-
I remember you
Yeah.
told me about this. Yeah.
I remember, Scourge, you initially hated the idea of this. You hated it. I was like,
Yeah.
why? Because there's a part in this scene when Carter gets drunk and he passes out. He acts kind of silly. You're like, that's so out of character, Josh. And I'm like, that's the point.
Yeah, that was the point.
I'm like, Scourge, for once in his life, can Carter feel happy just for a little bit?
Yeah, it was so out of nowhere, but I think that the point of them like having fun, not knowing if they're going to be alive tomorrow and stuff, I think it was good that this scene was in there as well. And I loved the various talks that each character had as well. Really, really cool stuff.
They got really deep, didn't they? Like when Carter asked Jake what it's like. What is it like being a dad? It's like, ooh, that cuts deep. And then where Jake asked Carter, so tell me, when you died, what happened? Like he's asking, like Jake is like, so what's the afterlife like? He's morbidly curious. And then Carter has trouble explaining it and stuff. And then Carter's like, do you think if we die, if we'd be better off? It's like, man, this is deep stuff. And then when Jake tells Charlene like that Jake is actually, because we never heard this come out of Jake's mouth, he's afraid. He's afraid because in Jake's mind, he already knows, like he has this plan that he's scheming with Marcus to clone himself, but he has no idea if he's going to pull it off or not. Has no idea. What if it goes wrong? They're fucked.
It's a very interesting, multi-layered kind of scene, and I also especially loved that we did get to have just Jake, Carter, Manny, and Justin in a room together, just talking. Like,
I love
just
that scene
chatting
so
and stuff.
much.
I'm so glad that got to be in there. Yeah, thank
We
goodness
explain
for, this scene.
for the first time ever, okay, Jake, what's with the beanie, dude? Come on, why are you always wearing that? It's because it was a present from his dad. There you go. Like, those little things seem like those character quirks that we had for so long that we just never got around to having. We explained. Like, this whole party scene is just great. It's good stuff, dude. Like, and my inspiration for this was the DLC for Mass Effect 3, the Citadel DLC, where they're just chilling, having a good time, drinking, partying, chatting before the big final battle, and they have no idea if they're gonna live or not tomorrow. And I love that because this is the last time you get to really spend downtime with these characters. Like, this is it.
It made me feel really happy, this scene. I remember when I saw it, it was just happy times. And especially considering when this scene passes, the thing we go to next is immediately back to depressing. And you're like...
The most depressing thing. So, yeah, filming this whole scene with getting these cars to spawn correctly in the garage. They would like clip through the walls, they would clip through the ceiling, spawning in all of the soldiers doing their various animations. Little did I know I was going to make this way more complicated by having way more and then being outside in the next episode. Good Lord Almighty. But yeah, this scene here, I remember. I think it's a good time to talk about it. I knew Jake wanted to die in some capacity, but I also know I wanted him to be back in the finale. But I had no idea how that was going to play out. Believe it or not, when we see Jake die here, I had no idea at the time how Jake was going to explain how he came back to life. I legit had no fucking clue.
See,
no clue.
The thing is, Josh, I thought you did have a plan.
Nope.
And then you messaged me at some point and you were like, hey, can you help me think of how Jake survived? And I was like, what?
Looking back, dude, You thought we planned all of this out, but for some reason, one or the other, we were just so focused on the other stories, and I was so focused on like the idea of Manny and Justin coming back, and I was so focused on these other plot lines, I didn't think about something that's so crucial that happens later on that explains how the fuck did Jake get out of this? How did Xander not know that wasn't the OG Jake? How did he not know that? What? I think it's a good time to talk about, now that we're getting into the finale, what was, and yeah, the trailer that I made for it, which I can pull up real quick. So, my initial idea for it was, can I go back to 9 real quick, was, because Scourge came up with this scene here with Xander, like, fighting the, like, these like Kurt and Zeke, who are actually like these simulations, which I thought was a brilliant idea to bring them back and have them like interact without them being, you know, the real characters. Yeah. My initial idea was, what if Jake knew this technology existed, and what if he used like one of these like projections as like for like himself?
That was an early idea, yeah. But we were saying that it would create a huge plot hole, because Xander surely would be able to detect no blood flow or heartbeat. You know, Xander's
brainwaves.
Exactly.
You know, and so you would see right through that. And plus, you know, it shows like the whole environment changes and stuff in this scene. You know, not just that, but like, you know, it's very clear that it's a simulation. Like Xander knows the whole time it's a simulation. So.
Yeah, the viewers in this scene probably were confused, but it's clear that something is not right, essentially.
Yeah.
So
it's so cool though. I love how they got to interact, and you actually designed that tattoo on the side of Kurt's face, didn't you? And like this texture mod.
Yeah, I did it in Photoshop, and then you mentioned it earlier, but in one of the episodes as we went through it, but. There's a process involving OpenIV where you have to go in and replace textures in the files. So this was one of the face tattoo textures that we just replaced with this custom one. So
and the original design was, I think, a bit like when you sent it to me, I liked it, but it was a bit too clean. I wanted you to add like these veiny like lines to it to make it look like it's actually part of his face a bit more.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm so happy that you got that to work, and
it's really
I like how, because like in the original Series 3, when he has that on his face, it's a fucking scorpion. But in this game, I love how you can literally kind of make it look like one, but give it like the silhouette of one.
Yeah.
So good.